UK. On DAB+. On your smart speaker. On your smart TV. And on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Well, it's been one of those days here at Talk. What an amazing job Jeremy Kyle and Mike Graham did for the last 3 hours. It looks like, after a lot of technical problems, that we're back up and running, so hopefully this show should come at you as normal. You might not like that, but that's what's going to happen. So good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 3 quality hours of breaking news, challenging views and dazzling debate. Get involved, get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I guarantee I'll play your message out. It is Wednesday, July the 9th. Here's what's coming up. We need to talk about the King. Does Charles have even the vaguest idea how offensive it is to use the phrase irregular migration? No, Charles, it's illegal migration. Got that? 0344 499 1000. OK, on state visits, the monarch is essentially the mouthpiece for the current government. But did he have to employ the ludicrous euphemism invented by Starmer and his gormless crew to put the crisis in a nicer light? And what was all that nonsense about there being no borders between Britain and France? Of course there are borders, Your Majesty. The problem is we don't enforce them. Meanwhile, as the King waffled on like some anodyne dork from the left wing of the Lib Dem party, bemused Brits were wondering why the hell taxpayers are forking out the best part of £500,000 to suck up to a French president, a pipsqueak president who palpably hates Britain. Last night's Windsor banquet alone cost at least a gut-busting £120,000, although some estimate the bill could be as high as £300,000, if not more. Pretty grotesque when so many in this country are struggling in the cost of living crisis, and thanks to our crybaby Chancellor, the economy is crashing and burning all around us. Altogether, this stupefying visit, including police security costs, will set the UK back in the astronomical region of £5 million. I mean, sacre bleu. What on earth is this high-priced fancy charade all about? What is it for? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the one-in, one-out agreement that Starmer wants but will never happen now seems to add up to sending back to France 2,600 migrants a year, which, when you consider that more than 50,000 will cross the Channel to Britain by the end of 2025, doesn't come over like the deal of the century. In fact, it's positively pathetic, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. And by the way, what happened to smash the gangs? If you were smashing any gangs, Starmer, you wouldn't need this one-in, one-out deal that's never going to happen, would you? 0344 499 1000. In other news, the Southport Inquiry has been launched, but will it investigate the Prime Minister's role in covering up the terrorist truth about Axel Ruder Obama? And will it probe the scourge of two-tier justice? 0344 499 1000. What do you think? Also tonight, the anti-trans protester who was arrested at London's Pride March on Saturday and says the police quashed his right to freedom of speech. 0344 499 1000. Plus, Angela Rayner's housing Quango and the £250,000 worth of expenses chalked up by its spending executives at our expense. Taxpayers paying for this again. 0344 499 1000. And finally, the trouble with Gregg Wallace, the latest working class star to get the boot from the upper class BBC. All that and so much more, so don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday night together, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be joined right now by Talk's international editor Isabel Oakeshott. Are you there, Isabel?
I very much am there.
Excellent.
And I can see you perfectly, and hopefully you can see me.
Yeah, it's been one hell of a few hours, so you don't realise how relieved I am to see you. But I always am, of course, but tonight especially. So let's talk. I know that you've got a powerful piece in the Telegraph right now, and that'll be in tomorrow's paper. Quite rightly lashing into this ludicrous state visit. What on earth is it all about? Why did they fly here? It's 21 miles across the English Channel. Why did Monsieur Macron and Madame Macron fly here on a big jet to Northolt? What they should have done, so they could, live the dream, live the news, is they should have come over on a small boat, on a dinghy, so they could understand the migrant crisis that neither Macron nor Starmer are anywhere near solving. But as I was saying in my monologue, it's just grotesque. This banquet last night, look at it. This was in the Great Hall at Windsor. It probably cost. It's definitely over £120,000, but I'm told it probably cost upwards of £300,000. And just to quell people's suspicions if they think I'm exaggerating, when King Charles went to France a couple of years back on his debut state visit to France. They had dinner in the Hall of Mirrors in Versailles Palace. The bill for that dinner, the state dinner in France, was €475,000. So this dinner last night, we know what it was, don't we? It was it was made by Raymond Blanc, the famous TV French chef, who of course is based here now. It was like seasoned fresh vegetables with a dressing. Then it was a special chicken with asparagus and tarragon cream. Then it was a blackcurrant parfait on a blackcurrant sponge. There was a special cocktail called Longtemps, which was gin and lemon curd. Sounds disgusting, actually. And of course, washed down by lashings of expensive French wine. I mean, look at it. I mean, when you think, Isabel, I mean, we're going to talk about the other costs involved in just a second. But this thing we're watching now, I was watching it last night live on air, and I said, this is disgusting. It's disgusting to see this. People in this country are suffering. They're suffering in the cost of living crisis. The economy, thanks to our crybaby Chancellor, has crashed and burned. People are really having a hard time. And look at this, £300,000 worth of dinner for this puffed up little pipsqueak of a president who hates Britain. What on earth is going on here, Isabel?
Well, I found the whole spectacle, frankly, obscene. I'm actually less exercised by the cost of the banquet than the fact that we wheeled out our finest royals and traditions to welcome this guy who has done nothing other than stitch us up for a period of many years. We have stuffed Macron's mouth with gold, and in return, he has basically made fools of us. He has done nothing, frankly, whatsoever to stop the flow of Channel migrants. And of course, the reason he didn't come over the Channel in the obvious way, which would have been by some fancy boat, was because he was trying to avoid the inevitable embarrassing comparisons with the migrants on their dinghies. I don't think, personally, if I were running the country, I would not have had the state visit under the circumstances, because unless we start getting really tough with the French, then why will they not continue just to take the proverbial out of us? And Macron is right that when he blames the pull factor, the so-called pull factor, for the reasons that so many economic opportunists are coming our way, But that does not give the French president and his administration a free pass to take our money and do absolutely nothing in return. I am very, very saddened that our monarchy was drawn in to having to shake hands with him and roll out the red carpet, when in fact, you know, for our king, he's doing that despite the reality that this very unwelcome guest is basically screwing over the king's loyal subjects, i.e. us.
Absolutely, and you know, the big question that we all want Starmer to ask Macron, I'm not sure he will have done. They had talks today. We'll come into the details of some of the nonsense that they've agreed or semi-agreed. We'll talk about that in a little while. But the question we wanted Starmer to ask is, can we have that £771 million back that we've given France over the years to patrol your beaches properly, stop the boats, stop the migrants, because you haven't stopped any boats, you haven't stopped any migrants, so can we have our money back? I doubt whether or not Starmer made that request. But before we get to the details, this nonsensical one-in, one-out deal, which is nothing of the type, nothing of the kind. We'll do the details in a minute. They're mind-bogglingly useless. And by the way, this deal will never happen. It will never happen anyway, because the European Commission has been written to by 5 nations in the EU to complain, saying France can't do a unilateral deal with Britain. So it won't happen anyway, but we'll talk about the details of that nonsensical alleged agreement in a little while. But, you know, I know that the King, Charles, is essentially in a state visit, the sort of mouthpiece of the government. You know, he doesn't sort of stand up and make his own speech. But as I asked in my monologue, do you think Charles has any idea how offensive that millions of people in this country will find it when he starts talking about irregular migration? No, Charlie, the word you're looking for is illegal. Illegal. Why was the King drawn into this ludicrous euphemism that this government has created to make the migrant crisis seem nicer, to put it in a less harsh light? It's illegal. So I fear the King doesn't know how offensive that phrase is. And he went on to say that there are no real borders between Britain and France, which is also offensive, because the thing is, Madge, there are borders. There is a border. The problem is we don't enforce the bloody thing. That speech, I know last night my switchboard lit up with people who were enraged by it. Now, to some extent, we can't blame the sovereign. But maybe, just maybe, let's not treat him like a child. Why didn't he kick back against irregular migration? I'll tell you why. Because if he was in political life, he'd be on the left wing of the Lib Dem party. That's the sort of nonsense that he buys into. But I wish he hadn't have said it, don't you?
Oh, I think it was very, very ill-advised. I mean, that phrase has the Foreign Office all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, they didn't want to do anything that might cause a diplomatic incident, but in so doing, they simply insulted this country in order to appease our neighbours. And, you know, the idea that there's no real borders between us is actually true, unfortunately, at the moment, because they're not being enforced. That is true.
That's
the last
true.
time I checked, King Charles was not King of France. And I think it's a big pity that he was so ill-advised as to use that phrase. Look, we've got to start saying it as it is. Our leaders have got to start saying it as it is. You know, if we had to welcome this delegation from our supposed allies, then I think there should have been a bit of straight talk. That doesn't mean that we couldn't have treated them respectfully. I think it's, you know, I actually love seeing what we do best as a country, or one of the many things we do very well. You know, that pomp and ceremony, it's beautiful. The royals looked fantastic. You know, we really know how to put on that show, and the sun was shining. It could not have been better, a better way in which to show off Britain. But let's be careful who we're doling this hospitality out to. And right now, I can't think of a worse time than to be rolling out the red carpet for the French.
Exactly right. And to go back to the King, because I do think a lot of people, I got so many people last night phoning in, sending messages saying that all their life they've been devout royalists, but that's it, they draw the line at this, they've had enough of this. I don't think the King quite understands the territory he's encroaching on here, which is basically Labour Lib Dem territory. People are sick and tired of this. And there's another thing they're sick and tired of, is his green claptrap obsession, his net zero obsession. Devoted to that he is that 2 years ago he went to the COP28 climate change conference by private jet and lectured us all about how the world was dreadfully off track, that was his phrase, in reaching key climate goals. Well, Charlie, if you stop flying around in a private jet, we might reach those key climate goals a little faster. The hypocrisy of this is getting on my nerves. You know, the King, William's just as bad. They're not supposed to partake in politics. They should be told, look, net zero, green claptrap, that's politics. Keep your trap shut.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if they think that that is somehow, you know, such a source of consensus that it doesn't actually fall into the bracket of being politics. But as we know, it's highly political. You know, I'm hazarding a guess that most of our listeners, whilst they're not climate change deniers, do not think that net zero is the answer to changing weather. And Charlie, I think King Charles has no real grasp of that other side of the argument. I mean, he's always been on this side. He would think of himself as a sort of early mover on this, you know, in the vanguard of it all. And that's true. He's been very consistent, you know, and some of what he's done over the years, I actually really admire. But this is going to become an increasing problem. And the phrase irregular migration, that is such a trigger. It is so insulting to people. Let's stop treating people as fools. You know, it isn't that. It's downright criminality. And we should be plain about it.
Exactly right. As I say, he lost a lot of support last night, and you know, we've got to give him some slack, because a sovereign on a state visit, you know, sort of has to do what he's told by the government. But you know, he's not a sort of human doll. He's not a puppet. He could have kicked back against some of that speech. No borders between France and Britain. Are you kidding me? Come on, give us a break. And just generally, this whole trip, three-day trip, will cost around about $5 million when you take into consideration the vast expenses of police security. So, you know, it's just like, I just don't get it. Why? Why is it happening? And I don't think people like to see this. They don't want to see this in these difficult times. I mean, if it's America, I kind of get it. It's worth sucking up to America for obvious reasons, you know, finance, our economy, etc. Do we have to suck up to France? Well, we're sucking up to them, but why bother? We don't get anything back. We never do. This little guy, Macron, hates us. So this is, it's disgusting to see this for me. Listen, let's go to break, Isabel. When we come back, we will talk about this fantastic one-in, one-out deal that Keir Starmer's so keen on, which now seems to be not quite that. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Well, Isabel, we can forget about the competition for the two worst BS wafflers of the year. Keir Starmer and Macron have got that one sewn up. Macron promising that the migrant crossings require shared solutions and that concrete progress and tangible results will emerge from their summit today. Meanwhile, Starmer said the nonsense coming out of Starmer was really off the scale. He said that the Prime Minister spoke of the government's toughening of the system in the past year to ensure rules are respected, enforced, blah, blah, blah. The two leaders agreed on the need to go further and make progress on new innovative solutions, including a new deterrent to break the business model of these gangs. Both Mr Macron and Keir Starmer are aiming for, drumroll, concrete progress. Now let's talk, shall we, about this concrete progress. So, smash the gangs. Inherent in these discussions, as you talk about one-on-one, you know, the idea sort of was that for every migrant that comes here, we will send them back to France, but we'll send them an illegal migrant and they will send us back a legal migrant. I'm not quite sure what the logic of that is, and if you consider the migrant crisis essentially is numerical, we've got too many people coming into the country. How does swap the foreigner between Britain and France cure our numerical problem? It absolutely doesn't. But anyway, this is what... I don't know if you could say they've agreed this, but this is what they've seemed to have come up with. The UK may initially return 1 in 17 migrants to France in a one-in, one-out deal. That will mean that we'll send back, technically, 50 migrants a week. That's 2,600 over the next year, if over the year after we get this deal in. 2,600. This year, 2025, it is expected that about 55,000 migrants will come across the channel illegally. 2,600 in our wildest dreams we send back to France. Doesn't sound like 1 in, 1 out to me, does it you?
No, and for the 2,000 whatever that we are supposedly going to send back, are they not just going to fill those spaces, as it were, with another 2,000? I mean, I really, really do not know what geniuses in Number 10 and the Foreign Office and the Cabinet Office have come up with this absolutely ludicrous scheme. Politically, it is a complete non-starter. How are they going to sell that to the voter? Oh, it's all right, folks. You know, we've got tens of thousands of people coming over, but we're going to send one back for everyone that we send back. We're going to get another one over. It doesn't make any sense.
It certainly doesn't.
What? It's just completely bonkers. You wonder about how these people sat round a table and thought, oh, yeah, I know how we're going to, quell public anger over this. We'll do a 1 in, 1 out migrant merry-go-round scheme. 1 in, 1 out, 1 in again.
Yeah.
only thing that voters want is none in and all out.
Exactly right. Now, 5 EU nations have written to the European Commission to complain about this potential deal.
Yeah.
They are Italy, Spain, Malta, Greece and Cyprus. You know, they say that, if we start sending migrants back to France, how do they know that they're not going to go off to Spain, Malta, Greece or Cyprus? They say that it materially affects their problems as they get migrants coming in from Africa and the Middle East. So they've already complained. The European Commission apparently has taken their complaint on board and is treating it seriously. In other words, this isn't going to happen. And by the way, as Starmer sat around discussing this ludicrous, harebrained scheme with his flunkies, do you think any of them would have had the guts to say, yeah, well, Keir, this one in, one out, well, what happened? I thought smash the gangs was going to solve the crisis. What happened to that?
I mean, let's just be very plain about why these other EU countries are complaining. Because it suits them very well. It suits all these EU member states very well to wave the migrants our way. I mean, none of these migrants started off in France, did they? They're not French refugees. They are, by and large, economic opportunists, many from North Africa, some from the Middle East. They've done all sorts of convoluted cross-continent journeys to get into France. Very few of them that make it as far as Calais ever intended to make France their final destination, because word has got out that the streets of Britain are paved with gold. Now, we all know they're not, and the more migrants that come here, the less gold there is. But the truth is that we are still a much softer touch and provide much more than pretty much anyone else. So it suits all the other EU member states that people can continue, the flow of migration continues to come in our direction. It doesn't surprise me at all that they want that to keep going. These are the vested interests. There are layer upon layer upon layer of vested interests in maintaining the status quo. And this government evidently just simply does not have the guts to do what it takes to stop the boats. And it does require radical action. As in, you either turn them around or you make it very clear that it is an immediate incarceration on arrival, pending being deported. And until we do one or other of those things, no amount of ludicrous merry-go-round migrant games are going to solve this problem.
I'd like to go to the House of Commons one day while there are all those MPs going, you see, the thing about the migrant crisis is so complex. There's no one easy solution. Really? I'd like to stand there and say, yes, there is. Turn the bloody boats round. That would work. But there are other solutions. So you could turn the boats round in the middle of the channel. That is eminently, legally and safely possible. OK, so it doesn't seem like they've got the guts to do that. So the next thing you could do is, as soon as they arrive, instead of saying, oh, no, you've applied, even though you came here illegally on an illegal boat and you haven't got a passport, so you've broken all of our laws, even though that you've done that, now that you've claimed asylum, you are legal. Well, we could stop that. As I think I've said to you before, this idea, when all these Guardian readers say, well, you don't understand, you see, as soon as they apply for asylum, they become legal. No, they don't. That's a political decision. It isn't a legal decision. We've decided to let them stay if they claim asylum. So I would suggest getting rid of that. And therefore, when they arrive, we do detain and deport. So we detain them and then we send them back whence they came. And my third potential solution, which is the softest of the lot, but I think quite good, all this stuff we give to them. So they turn up here and we put them in a 4-star hotel. We give them 50 quid a week, free food, free accommodation, free doctors, free dentists, free driving lessons, free trampoline lessons, and so on and so forth. OK, but, you can carry on giving them all that if you want. If we took away one thing, it would seriously, materially affect our asylum seeker problem. So what I suggest is this. They turn up here And they go, right, I'm claiming asylum. And we say, OK, you're going to fight that case legally, are you? Yes, I'm going to fight to stay here legally. I'm going to stake my legal claim to reside in Britain. We're the other and go, OK, you got any money? Because you have to pay for the lawyers. We are the only country in the world that gives migrants who break into the country legal aid. That, of all the nonsense we give these people, free trampoline lessons, for example, of all the nonsense we give these people, paying for their lawyers to fight their case to stay after they broke into our country illegally is the maddest. It's utterly insane. Why don't we just stop giving them legal aid?
Well, I wasn't aware that we're the only country in the world that does that, but it doesn't surprise me. It is obviously completely mad. And not only do we provide them with the lawyers, we also provide them with the translation services. You know, the cost of all of this is absolutely off the dial. And you can imagine the diversion of legal brains into this industry that could actually be helping the British people who've paid into the system and were born here and have nothing but good intentions of trying to make a contribution, however hard that may be. I just don't accept that this is complicated.
It's not, but they...
We are a sovereign nation.
Yeah.
We're not even in the EU anymore. And yes, we've signed up to international treaties, but no, seriously, are we going to become some kind of rogue state, some kind of international pariah, because we've taken measures to protect our national security? There is not a country in the world that would not understand, and indeed most likely be doing the very same many years ago and would never let it have got this far, in order to protect the safety of their own citizens. So I simply don't accept that somehow or other, if we breach some highfalutin treaty that we signed back in 1953 or whenever it was, we're suddenly going to become North Korea or Iran. It's an absolute load of Islington lawyer twaddle. And we should run the experiment and see what happens.
We're going to go to break now, but I just want to ask the audience, give me a call. Do you think, folks, do you think that solving the migrant crisis is inherently, as MPs will tell you, left, right and centre till the cows come home, complicated? Do you think it's complicated? Do you think it's complex? Or do you think it's actually quite simple? I think millions of people around the country, they look at this mess and they go, but this is simple. Turn the boats round. Arrest them when they get here. Don't give them legal aid. No, it's very complicated. It's very... You're just a member of the public. You don't understand. Yeah, the problem is we do. It's you lot in the House of Commons that don't understand. With certain honourable exceptions, of course. Listen, let's go to break and let's talk about mass deportation when we come back, shall we? Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, in a second we're going to talk about this poll that reveals that this now, as a matter of fact, is the least successful government ever to start. It is the worst first year ever. Polling reveals that Keir Starmer's popularity rating is the worst of any Prime Minister at this stage of their premiership. So, you know, it's coming home to roost. It's coming home to roost. So we'll talk about it in just a second. But I just wanted to run something by you. The concept of mass deportation. I know it's like, oh my God, don't say that. That's racist and all that. Well, look, President Trump has just doubled down on his vow to mass deport, all illegal migrants. He's rejected proposals of amnesties, even for agricultural workers. Farmers have been saying, well, let us keep the agricultural workers, but no. So he is doubling down, and he is continuing to at least stick to his vow to deport as many illegal migrants from America as possible. And when people say to him, why are you doing this? He said, well, they're not here legally. Their presence is unlawful. A nation that doesn't bother with its own laws is not a serious nation. So why is it that in Britain, you know, as soon as you bring up the concept, people recoil in horror and sort of say, that's the most terribly racist thing that I've ever heard? I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating it or anything. I'm just wondering why we have turned the idea of getting rid of migrants who are here illegally into a taboo subject.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Was that you? Don't do that to us. I thought it was us.
No, it's me this time. I'd like
You should see the panic you just caused, including with me. Sorry, start again, yeah.
I would like to untaboo this subject. It's got nothing to do with race. I mean, if there are lots and lots of white people here who are illegal immigrants, then they should also leave. I don't really think that there should be any kind of, you know, clutching at strings of pearls over the phrase mass deportation. There's questions certainly over the practicalities of it.
Agreed.
And the optics of it and how it would be actually managed. I mean, I certainly, you know, in a civilized country, don't want to see some of the techniques and tactics that are used in, you know, third world countries. I mean, there are countries like Pakistan that fairly recently did a mass deportation program, having very, very almost generously allowed masses of Afghans across the border. And those, in many cases, they never, ever got legitimised. They're working on the black market. And finally, Pakistan said, look, we've had enough of this. And some of their methods were perhaps not ones that would really work in the UK or would be desirable in the UK. But as a principle, should we be kicking out everybody who is not entitled to be here? Well, of course. Why is that controversial? If you're here illegally, you should be kicked out. It's really simple. And since there are masses of people who are here illegally, then masses of people should be deported, in my personal view.
Yeah, and here's the problem, or this is at the root of the problem, the heart of the problem, is it is estimated that it's possible. There are so many migrants apparently in this country that we don't know about, that it's possible that you know, estimations of the population of this country, which were around about 70 million, could be 10 million light. In other words, expert commentators believe there could be 10 million people in this country that we don't know about. And of course, because of our illegal migrant crisis and our legal migrant crisis, this is just getting worse and worse and worse. So I suspect that in the not too distant future, it's going to become an imperative for a government to start getting to grips with this.
And the question is, what does that look like? You know, if you are talking about very, very large numbers of people, what is required to make that happen? I mean, we're not, obviously, we can't put millions of people on planes. You know, it would be an awful spectacle, and it would also be tremendously expensive. So one by one, these people have to be identified and encouraged on their way at their own expense. You know, it should not be a government program of, you know, literally getting in like our aircraft carriers and filling them with people. That's just not, come on, that's ridiculous. But it's the point is the principle of it. I suppose the phrase is just quite crude, isn't it? And it just sounds...
It sounds bad, doesn't it? But you're
very aggressive. But it's the idea behind it that we should stop simply tolerating, absorbing all these extra people.
That's exactly it. And I think what Donald Trump is doing, at the very least, he's sending a message saying, look, if you're living in our country unlawfully, if you broke into this country illegally, you're an illegal migrant, don't feel complacent. You know, don't feel that you have the right to do this. We're coming after you. So be afraid, be very afraid. I think we should send that message to our potentially 10 million illegal migrants who are living here, so they don't feel that they're home and dry, because at the moment, once they get across the channel, or as we're finding out now, very often they come over on some sort of legal working visa, the visa runs out and they just stay. The message we should be sending to all of these people is don't feel safe, you're not home and dry, and we're at the very least we're going to try and round you up, and we're going to try and get rid of you. We need to, that's what Trump is doing. I mean, in the real world, he can't get every single illegal migrant in America and send them back whence they came, but he's telling all the illegal migrants, I'm on your case. And as I say, that is not evil or racist. That is being a serious country. This is one of the things I worry about Britain. We seem to be paying less and less attention to our own laws. We seem to care less and less about the laws that turned this country into one of the most civilized nations on earth. And we should pay attention to the law that allows you to live here.
Absolutely. And, you know, the first way that you'd send out that message is saying, that's it, folks, we're not tolerating any more cross-channel migration in that way. You know, that's step one, isn't it, of sending out the message that Britain is full. We're not turning a blind eye to this anymore. We're not indulging it. We're not actually enabling it and encouraging it by all the benefits and, you know, red carpet welcome that we offer these people. So that's step one. Nothing else is going to work in terms of what any prime minister might say about deportation if it doesn't start with the channel migrants, even if they're a small fraction of the overall problem. And once you've started saying that and you've stopped the flow, you then say anyone who, you then make sure that your computer systems and the resources that you have to back those up, you know, your border force is actually acting on all the overstayers, because that's enormous, you know, and those who are doing things on visas that are not, you know, designed for those visas, and come over as a dependent and doing other things and so on.
Indeed. Now, let me put that out to the audience. Should we start embracing the concept of mass deportation? As Isabel said, there must be a nicer word for this, but we may have 10 million people living here who shouldn't be. Surely we should do something about them, don't you think? 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to talk about this poll that kind of proves something we sort of knew anyway, that this is the worst start by any government ever in British history, and the worst start by any Prime Minister in British history. Not, I suppose, the biggest shocker you've ever heard, but now we've got the polling truth, the facts about it. So that next, stay tuned.
we have to look at these reforms in the whole, in the round. So clearly they're designed to process people more quickly, but perhaps more significantly to put more people into the community. And of course our probation service isn't being dealt with, it's not getting more funds, yet they are going to have to deal with more people. And of course in prison we're still not doing rehabilitation. It's a golden opportunity to teach people a trade, whether it's plumbing, woodwork, whatever it happens to be.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, there's a new poll out by YouGov, just about the biggest polling outfit out there. And they have found that there's a 67% disapproval rating of two-tier Keir's calamitous leadership and indeed this government after a year. What I'm fascinated by in this poll is who are the 13%, the 13% who approve of Labour's first year. Who are these people? They must be members of the Labour Party or something.
Benefits claimants, maybe?
Migrants?
Yeah, well, precisely that. And I'm afraid people on the hard left, I suppose it's the same with any political, the sort of very ideological side of any political movement, find it very, very difficult to accept when their own side of things is failing and failing catastrophically, and they just refuse to believe it and think all is fine. I mean, no one sensibly could describe the last year as a roaring success. Do you remember all that? Do you remember all that ghastly, smug, self-congratulatory, oh, the grown-ups are in charge now. Oh, please. Is that the grown-ups that were crying at PMQ?
Yeah, grown-ups don't cry like little girls, do they?
It has been an absolute unmitigated disaster. None of us could have predicted that it would be this bad. In fact, I welcomed a change of government. I'd never have welcomed a left-wing government under any other circumstances. But the last lot was so dire that I thought, well, at least this is, it's a fresh lot. Maybe they'll do some things differently. I think that previous Labour governments have done some quite good things. But I'm struggling to think of anything that this lot have done. And, reading Keir Starmer's 1 year in interviews, keeps on saying and being let away with saying by interviewers that he's proud of all the achievements. What achievements? What? I mean, what's he going to cite? That he's apparently shaved a few numbers off the unbelievably unacceptable NHS waiting list. So what? It's actually 6.5 million instead of 7 that are waiting for, in some cases, literally years for operations. This doesn't happen in other countries, folks.
I know, and you know how they're getting the waiting list down. They're telling people, oh, your appointment is now on next Thursday. So they take them off the waiting list, and then come next Wednesday, they get another call to say, oh, sorry, your appointment's cancelled. So there's a lot of people saying, yeah, they took me off the waiting list for a week, and then they cancelled my next appointment. That's what they're doing. They're fiddling the figures. So not even their alleged achievements on hospital waiting lists can be taken seriously. Now, Sir John Curtis, the guru of polling, he said that Starmer, using his quotes here, was never especially popular, and that the public still don't know what he stands for. And I think that's, in politics, you know this, you've been around the political scene for a long time. When you look at your leaders, your prime ministers, your top cabinet ministers, your chancellors, you look for meaning. What is this guy about? What is it he wants to do? What are his policies? You look at Keir Starmer, what do you see? A straw in the wind. You don't like my opinions? I've got others. know, the guy is a hollow man. He's a jellyfish. There's nothing to him. And that is reflected in this terrible polling. And by the way, this poll was conducted after sobbing at Rachel in the Commons last week. That didn't go down at all well. We discussed this last week. On a human level, I felt sorry for her. I'm quite surprised about how hard-hearted most people in this country are about it. They just say, no, you know, she's a chancellor. Why is she crying? That's ridiculous. I've got a note here. I'll talk to him later. This is from Tony in Lancashire. He said, Reeves, who gives a damn about her crying? I'll tell you who gives a damn, Tony. We'll have a chat later. The markets, the bond market, the stock market, the pound, all plummeted the moment the world saw that the woman in charge of Britain's economy was sobbing in the House of Commons. It was a very significant moment. And why was she crying? Why is Keir Starmer effectively crying? It's because of last week's welfare bill catastrophe, where they were supposed to save £5 billion. Left-wingers stopped them doing that. This is £5 billion off our grotesque £300 billion benefits bill every year. They didn't take thanks to the lefties on the backbenchers, they didn't take a single penny off in the end. In fact, they raised our benefits bill by £100 million. That is one of the reasons why they're so unpopular. And since then, it has emerged, you know, PIP. What is it? Personal
independence payment.
Personal independence payment. It has emerged, bearing in mind now that our government is doing nothing about this. They're going to continue at this rate. That one PIP application last year was approved, wait for it, every 3 minutes. That is not going to change. We're in massive trouble, aren't we?
We really are in massive trouble. And, you know, I think that we've been beleaguered, you know, beset by prime ministers in a way of a very similar ilk to Keir Starmer. I mean, I do think he is probably the worst, but we've had a succession of prime ministers that it is hard to know what they've stood for. You know, it's sort of managerial, really, at best. Someone asked me today, you know, what if Boris Johnson comes back? I mean, apparently the Tories are heartened by some internal private polling that suggests that, you know, if Boris comes back, that could make a difference to the Tories' fortunes. I'm just not buying that, because Boris, you know, great fun as he is, he's a character. I don't think anyone's falling for it again, not least because of this ongoing theme. I don't know what Boris stands for. He stands for being Boris, you know, bouncing around, you know, with his bouffant blonde hair, making jokes and being a great speaker and a sort of great entertainer. But what does he stand for policy-wise? Can he stand up in front of the nation and say, I'm going to solve the migrant crisis? No one could possibly take him seriously. This is, after all, a man who, when he was London mayor, proposed an amnesty for illegal immigrants. So my point is, this isn't about Boris. It's about the type of leaders we have. And I think people are crying out for someone, anyone, who is very clear about where they stand politically. And that's what accounted for the, frankly, bizarre popularity of Jeremy Corbyn all those years ago. It was because it's very clear who he is and what he stands for.
Yeah.
You and I, you know, repelled by that type of politics. We think it's all mad. Unfortunately, he wasn't elected. But I understand the appeal of politicians that have their views, and they say, well, sorry, if you don't like my views, you'll have to vote for someone else. This is who I am and this is what I stand for. And that's what Corbyn did. Ditto Farage. A lot of people may not like him, but they sure as hell know what he stands for.
Exactly. Now, Boris Johnson, of course, mainly stands for net zero madness. He's a net zero nutter. So that wasn't very conservative, if you ask me. And he wrote at the weekend, what did you make of it? He wrote at the weekend that what the Tories should do, he's still banging the Tory drum. He's so politically astute, he hasn't quite noticed they're in a bit of trouble. He said the way forward for the Tories, what they should do about reform and Nigel Farage, they should just completely ignore them. I don't think that would be particularly successful, do you?
We can see just how well that's working in the House of Commons today, where they did the precise opposite. You know, this was extraordinary footage where Nigel Farage stood up to ask a question at Prime Minister's Questions, as he's entitled to do. And what appeared to be the entire House barracked him to such a point that when you now look at that footage again today, you will be hard put to actually hear what the Reform leader was saying and asking.
It's disgraceful.
Disgraceful. But what it does is it plays right into Nigel Farage's hands.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah Poshin was on last night with me, and she said, with some irritation, she said, you know, she's asked quite a few questions, very good questions if you ask me. She said she's still waiting for the first question she asked to be. She said, none of my questions have been answered. Not a single question in the House of Commons. That's the way they treat reform.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they just don't answer the question. You know, they'll be asked something quite simple. I mean, they do it. You know, I suppose all governments do this, but in a sense, these idiots are giving Nigel Farage the very publicity that they don't want him to have. You know, those clips of that behaviour will go viral and only add to Mr. Farage's popularity.
Exactly right. Isabel, fantastic to talk to you. So glad I got the opportunity. We'll talk again next week. Stay tuned. Southport Inquiry next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to talk to a guy who staged his own protest during the Pride marches on Saturday here in London. And he's a sort of anti-trans protester, and he held up a sort of placard saying, with the trans sign, and then equals mental illness. So he said a sort of people who think they're in the wrong body are actually suffering from some kind of mental illness. Now, he said that's his right to do it, freedom of speech. I would suggest that perhaps he's got a point. Anyway, he was, of course, arrested by the police, who said he was causing offence and therefore likely to cause a disturbance and so on. Held for 9 hours. Not yet charged. Whether or not he will be is another issue. But he says that his freedom of speech was judged to be subordinate to the freedom of speech of the Pride marchers. So it's a kind of freedom of expression issue. We'll talk to the brilliantly named Montgomery Toms fairly soon, and then I'll take your calls at 8:30, 03444 99 1000. And towards the end of the hour, I think you'll be interested in this one. You know Angela Rayner, you know she's going to build 10 million houses a minute for the next 20 years or something. Hasn't built many yet, isn't on track, of course. Well, she's got a housing Quango, and the executives on this housing Quango, who will be in charge of distributing billions and billions of pounds worth of taxpayers' money, 39 billion. This organisation is called Homes England. Anyway, they have chalked up a staggering £240,000 in expenses, nearly £250,000. That's expenses. That's on accommodation, hotels, hospitality, food. I mean, that's our money. You know, these Quangos, Angela Rayner. We'll talk about that later. £250,000. It's ridiculous, obscene again. Take our money and they divide it between themselves, folks. But before we get to any of that, we need to talk about the Southport Inquiry. The inquiry began yesterday at Liverpool Town Hall. It is chaired by Sir Adrian Fulford, the usual, you know, standard issue retired judge. They always come out of retirement to chair these inquiries. He's promised that his inquiry will examine the wholesale failure of multiple institutions to prevent, this is his words, one of the most egregious crimes in our country's history. He says that Axel Rudiger Palmer's appalling crime was far from being an unforeseeable catastrophic event. He essentially, Sir Adrian Fulford says that, he could have been prevented, he could have been stopped. So that's all very well, but I just wonder what the parameters of this inquiry will be. Of course, Adrian Fulford said it won't be papering over the cracks or anything like that. They always say that. Well, look, let's examine some of the other aspects of what happened in Southport that I think we should be looking into. Let's talk to ex-Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike.
Yeah, good evening, Kevin.
Well, look, what Adrian Fulford said as he launched this inquiry, which will no doubt go on for about like 50 years and cost about £4 billion or something. And I'm not against the principle of an inquiry into Southport because it was such an egregious, horrific crime. And also, you know, clearly huge mistakes were made with this Axel Rudiger animal, insofar as 3 times he was referred to the anti-terrorist prevent scheme and 3 times he was deemed not to be suitable. Subsequently, we discovered he had a house full of ricin and an Al-Qaeda training manual, so clearly huge mistakes were made there. But what I'm wondering, Mike, is amid this massive inquiry, no cracks papered over, will it examine the concept of, or what I would say the scourge of, two-tier justice? You know, will it investigate whether or not it was right to take 385 people and put them in jail within about a week just because they were involved allegedly in these riots, or 12 people, by the way, went to jail for writing hurty words on their keyboards on Facebook and Twitter? You know, do you think this inquiry will take on board that the people would like to know what happened here in terms of what we say is two-tier justice? People involved in these riots, people involved in tweeting and Facebook posts, got a different kind of justice to the rest of the nation. Do you think this inquiry will have a look into that?
Unfortunately not, Kevin. I don't think it will. And I actually did a Freedom of Information Act request, and I asked the Cabinet Office, when did the Prime Minister know that ricin and an Al-Qaeda handbook had been found in Axel Rudikabana's house? And they're refusing to tell me that. Now, common sense tells me that this is a young lad, wicked and evil as he is, but he's not an international terrorist. He lives in a house with his parents. So the police must have known that within, a matter of hours of him being arrested. So the Prime Minister must have been well aware of the facts. Al-Qaeda is an Islamic terrorism organisation. So he knew about this within hours, and yet he was on... When they talk about misinformation and people saying, oh, it's misinformation...
Oh. As Mike has frozen. I hope this is just a temporary problem. Yeah, what we're talking about here, we'll get Mike back in just a second, and this is the other element that I would like this inquiry to look into, but I have my doubts. I suspect Mike does. It is this, that, as Mike was just saying, clearly the Prime Minister... Are you back, Mike?
I can hear you. Sorry.
Okay,
I don't know what's going on with the connection here.
Don't worry, we've had a lot of technical problems today. Yeah, you was just saying, look, the other element that I would like this inquiry to look into is will it investigate and publicise why the Prime Minister, the police and the Crown Prosecution Service participated in a cover-up, keeping secret Rudikabana's terrorist connections and the discoveries at his home. It is inconceivable that the Prime Minister didn't know within seconds of those discoveries at Rudikabana's house, the truth about this guy. Now, if you recall, Mike, and you will do, it was, I think, about 3 months after he was arrested and charged with the murders, we finally found out that he's also being charged with possession of ricin and an Al-Qaeda training manual. They kept that information secret, didn't they, in order to calm the local or the population of this nation, really, to keep us calm, because the mood was incendiary then. They kept that a secret from us. I don't think they should do that.
As I said, I don't know how much I was cut off, but I did this Freedom of Information Act request, and they're refusing to tell me when the Prime Minister knew. But he must have known within a matter of hours.
Yeah, I agree.
That has been going on.
Yeah.
And so the facts are that they have been covering this up. They're covering up the truth. They're putting people in jail who are telling half-truths. Whilst people put on Facebook half-truths, the government was telling us completely untruths, and it is simply not good enough. We can't carry on where the establishment are telling the population lies to cover up for the mistakes they've made in the past.
Yeah, as I say, this was clearly because Keir Starmer and the police, CPS to an extent, were terrified that if because at that point already the mood in Southport and around the country was incendiary. The word was going round. The guy, they didn't know them, but the person who committed these atrocious killings, the 3 poor little girls who were slaughtered, stabbed to death by this monster, the word was going round that he was a terrorist and that he was an illegal migrant. Now, neither was true, but he was the son of a Rwandan migrant, and he clearly had a terrorist connection. Now, the Prime Minister and the police clearly decided that if we, the poor little public, found out about this, we would explode in rage. Well, we didn't find out about that thanks to them keeping it a secret, but by keeping it a secret, that only fanned the flames of the misinformation that was flying around. And in fact, by keeping it a secret, I think Starmer and the gang made the situation even worse, which is why these enormous riots broke out all over the country. So do you think the inquiry will look into this aspect?
I'm afraid it won't, Kevin. It'll just look into the establishment. It'll look into what the mistakes that they can try and cover up. It will not look into how the establishment deals with these sort of matters and hide things. And you've got the police blaming the Crown Prosecution Service, that the Crown Prosecution Service advised them. The CPS are then denying that. It's just a complete mess. And until we face up to the facts of this Islamic terrorism and the threat it brings, nothing's going to be done. And when we look at it, you've got Axel Rudiger, referred to Prevent. Prevent seem to think that half of terrorism is far-right groups. It isn't that. They're not focusing. Again, I did a Freedom of Information Act request, and they're not, only 90% of the threat is Islamic terrorism, yet they're not focusing on that because it doesn't suit the agenda. It's a real tragedy.
It really is, and it's a dangerous tragedy as well. Here's another element that Sir Adrian Fulford says that this inquiry is going to look into, and I think this is worrying. He has announced his intention to consider whether or not the courts should be given powers to impose restrictions on individuals deemed to pose a risk despite insufficient evidence to justify an arrest. Now, I know we can talk about the emotive nature of keeping people safe, and particularly children and all that, but if we go down the line of when they say courts, the courts given powers to impose restrictions, they essentially mean the authorities, the police. And if we go down that road of sort of kind of arresting and restricting and punishing people before we have enough evidence to arrest them, then I think we enter rather dubious territory, to say the least. I mean, this is or punishing people without trial, without evidence. This is the action of totalitarian states, North Korea, Russia, China. This is not what we should be doing in Britain. So while I really do understand, people will say, well, we have to do everything to protect children. Well, the principle of not being arrested until there's enough evidence to do so is very, very important in a free country, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and you can bet your bottom dollar as well, Kevin, that they won't be focusing on the real threats. As I say, Islamic terrorism is 90-odd% of the threats against this country, but you can...
He's frozen again. I'm hoping this is just Mike's Zoom, because if any of you've been listening all day, we've had a world of technical problems. We're getting Hello, Mike. Are you there? Is he there? Are you there, Mike? Sorry, mate. I'm hoping it's your end.
I'm there. I think I'm here.
You are
but
here,
as I said,
indeed.
Kevin,
yeah, you're back.
So I do apologise. What I think is they'll be targeting the far right, as they see that as the biggest threat, rather than focusing on the real threat. So that's why we have to keep to the rule of law, that you can arrest people if there's reasonable grounds to make arrests, and you can charge them. And if when people are arrested, you can put bail conditions on them that restricts their movement. So if there's not enough evidence to arrest, it really is dubious grounds. But you can just see the establishment will be focusing on the wrong area to justify the mistakes of the past.
But that is, if they go down that route, basically arresting and restricting and putting punishments on people before there's enough evidence to do so. In other words, empowering the police and the authorities and the courts to say, that guy over there, we reckon he's dodgy. He's sure as hell dodgy. Well, you know that. You're a former copper. You can't go around doing that. You've got to get the evidence. If we go down that route of allowing the police or the courts to decide someone is dodgy and then punish them, we've crossed the line there. I don't think we should do that. Do you?
I absolutely agree. Now, some people, may like or dislike, or whether you dislike Tommy Robinson, for example. Now, whether you agree with him or not, he was put in prison for several months in a secret sort of hearing. Now, if Jeremy Corbyn or a communist or somebody I completely disagree with was put in prison in a secret court without their lawyer, I don't want to live in a country like that. We should, whatever your views are, far left, far right, in the centre, in the middle, we should have a rule of law where everybody is treated the same. And we can't have this, but I just think the government are going to use these powers for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, and what we're talking about, I think this encompasses everything we've been discussing. The most important principle of justice in this country, in a free country, is transparency. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. And what we didn't get in Southport was any transparency whatsoever. And if we allow the courts and the police to start nicking people just because they fancy it, just because they go, oh, we know he's a wrong un, let's just nick him, without any evidence, without any cause to do so, again, that would deprive the public of the transparency that we warrant, not deserve, we warrant that. So I think, well, it'll be interesting to see what this inquiry is, because the big thing about all inquiries are the parameters. We look forward to learning what the parameters will be of the rape gang inquiry and so on and so forth. But, well, let's give the Southport Inquiry the benefit of the doubt at the moment, but I bet you they don't look into Keir Starmer's cover-up. And I bet they don't look into two-tier justice. If they do, I'll eat my hat. Mike, great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much, mate. That's Mike Neville, ex-Scotland Yard detective. Next up, we're going to talk to Montgomery Toms about his one-man protest at the Pride March in London on Saturday. That next, stay tuned.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a...
Getting more funds, yet they are going to have to deal with more people. And of course, in prison, we're still not doing rehabilitation. It's a golden opportunity to teach people a trade, whether it's plumbing, woodwork, whatever it happens to be.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side.
Welcome back. We're going to talk about a one-man protest, as I was saying before the break. On Saturday, big Pride March here in London. LGBTQ plus community out in strength, in force. My next guest is an activist called Montgomery Toms, and shall we say he was not towing the party line. He was wearing a sort of sandwich board with the transgender pride flag, and then equals mental illness. Not surprisingly, it wasn't long before he was arrested. The police saying that he was displaying a sign or writing that is likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress. Of course, Montgomery, I think, is saying, well, you know, why should his right to freedom of speech take second place to everyone else? So let's discuss this with Montgomery Toms. Welcome to the show, Montgomery.
Hi there, how you doing?
I'm good. Well, first of all, tell me why you think this, why you think that transgenderism, if you like, adds up, equals mental illness.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this was clinically recognised until a couple of years ago when everything started to change, even by the World Health Organization, recognised kind of identifying in a different body or as a different gender, a different sex even, you know, as being a mental illness. So what I'm saying was once commonly accepted. But of course, we've seen a massive shift and we've seen just this cult-like mentality take over the West, especially the UK, with the words mental illness suddenly becoming scary. But look, if I said to you, I want to amputate my left leg because I feel like I should only have one leg, you'd look at me and say, you're mentally
mental
ill.
illness.
So I honestly do feel it's the same thing, and we should have the freedom to be able to express that. The fact that I get arrested for making a statement like that is ludicrous, and it just continues to reinforce this two-tier system that we've got in this country.
I mean, my point about your sign is that's what you think, that's what you believe, and whether or not anyone else agrees with you is almost beside the point. You have the right to express your beliefs, which is what you were doing on Saturday. Now, the police, of course, said, well, you're going to antagonise everyone. Everybody else here is a pride guy, a pride person. They're having great fun, and this is going to antagonise, cause harassment, alarm or distress. I think they can wrap that up in a kind of an offence. But your point, Montgomery, and I see where you're coming from, is what if we have freedom of expression, why is it that you're not allowed to express your beliefs just because you're in a geographical area where the majority of people disagree with you?
No, you're absolutely right. And I explained this to the police, and what it basically came apparent that they're less worried about me and more worried about those that are at the demonstration and how they're going to react to me. And what I made really clear is, since when did we govern our country off emotion and use law and base it on emotion? We don't. The whole point of law is that there is this consistent way of maintaining kind of order. But the police don't act like that anymore. You know, the police are more focused on DEI politics. They have more training in the areas of diversity and inclusion than they do on free speech. And that needs to shift. We have like a systemic issue. And even in a country where we've now had a court ruling detailing the law, the Met Police still can't follow that. And I say this because you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter if you disagree with me. It's kind of irrelevant. The point is, I should have the inalienable right to be able to come out and say, do you know what, I disagree with what you're doing. And the thing is, there's so little opposition to, I would honestly call it a mob of people, that I feel someone needs to put it there. And obviously the police felt it was antagonistic, and to an extent, maybe there's some truth in that. But again, that's not law. You're not enforcing law there. You're enforcing an opinion and emotion, and that's not how we're supposed to govern a country.
Well, they seem to be, or the cops seem to be saying that you've committed an offence by displaying a sign or writing that is likely to cause harassment, alarm or distress. I mean, what is that offence?
Okay, so very interesting you say that, because I was arrested under Public Order Act, but I wasn't charged. I was actually put on something called a pre-charge, but that still gives them the ability to place bail conditions. So currently, I am banned from the city of Westminster, which is, number one, a place where I need to work. So I am challenging this, of course, and hopefully I'm going to get this thrown out. But for wearing a sign, I was arrested, detained for 9 to 10 hours, put in solitary, put for a really patronising interview with 2 officers, and then banned from the city of Westminster and told I have to return to Charing Cross Police Station in October in order to understand whether I'm going to be charged or not. And this is all for expressing my opinion. I mean, this is the UK now. This is what we're dealing with. It's a complete travesty of justice and a complete attack on our freedom of speech.
Yeah, I mean, the law, well, there are laws about freedom of speech. In fact, we're supposed to have freedom of speech. And I'd be interested to learn how it is exactly that if you express an opinion in an environment where the majority of people there don't agree with you, I'd be interested to know what the law is that says you can't express that opinion because it's going to offend the majority. I don't think there is such a law, is there?
No, there isn't. And well, they're going to use the Public Order Act or accuse you of disrupting the peace as another common one. You know, these are laws which were put in, I would even say, without proper public consultation, and so little public consultation these days. We just see things sort of thrown through into law without the public really knowing what's happening. And then the police aren't even properly informed as to how they can enforce that. I mean, all it takes is one senior officer to basically come forward and say, yeah, arrest that guy under this act. And then you've got, I mean, I had 11 police officers. These days, you can't get a police officer to come and check your house when you've had a burglary. And yet I've got 11 arresting me for a sign. I get the impression that the majority of people in the UK or England, or let's say London, would be more interested in the police doing their job rather than arresting me for having an opinion. You know, it's just chaos. It's ridiculous.
Did you get the feeling that the many cops who were involved in your arrest, did you think that they were disapproving of you?
Well, I'll give you an example. You may see in the videos, I used the term these people. I said, so are you admitting that these people are what, dangerous? And I was making the point of saying, you're claiming I'm, you know, saying I'm causing alarm and distress, but why is that my problem? That's their problem. And his response to that was, well, I don't know what you mean by these people. So I suppose he wanted to be a little bit sort of virtuous in defending the fact that that's not an okay term to use. So is that political correctness gone mad, I suppose. But I did get the impression, and in the interview, it was quite amusing because you could tell that the young guys that were interviewing me were, you know, I can't assume really, but I would say that they probably politically completely resented me, but they still had to go ahead and do their job. Yeah. I mean, the fact I've been banned from the city of Westminster, a lot of my work is quite openly revolves around that area. And it wouldn't shock me. There's other demos coming up in London revolving around kind of trans demonstrations and so forth, that they banned me from Westminster with the motivation to disrupt me having an opinion. I don't think that's okay. And that's why I'm really pushing to get that bail restriction lifted. And then after that, I'll be pushing to sue.
Yeah, so wrongful arrest.
Yes.
And you spent 9 hours in a cell?
Yeah.
And at the end of that, they said you've got something called a pre-charge, yeah?
Yeah, which is, if you ask me, is like having your cake and eating it. We're not going to charge you, but we're still going to give you bail conditions. So
I'm just trying to get my head around this. So in the end, they maintain, I mean, they could be right, I don't know, that it's an offence to offend a large crowd in case that crowd becomes unruly and it causes a disturbance. Is that the essence of it?
There could be some truth in that. I mean, I'm no lawyer. I have a rough knowledge of the law, and increasingly so based on the situation I'm currently in. I suppose what is significant also, and something I haven't mentioned, is 2 officers came over to speak to me and told me to take the sign off. And I completely admit, I said no, because I honestly believe that it's my freedom to do so. Mm-hmm. However, so not to be too antagonistic and so not to cause any more upheaval, I actually withdrew myself from the situation. So I walked away and they followed me. And I walked 2 streets in the opposite direction, completely away from the parade, and then 9 further officers came around the corner. One gentleman said, I need to speak to you, and then before informing me of the offence I'd committed, handcuffed me, which is not proper procedure. So I even if you were to say that they were in the right, to which I don't think that's the case, if you were to say they were in the right and they were acting lawfully, I withdrew myself from the situation. I wasn't there. So they didn't even arrest me at the location to which they supposedly say I was committing a crime. So the whole thing doesn't add up. And it just comes down to this infestation that we have within the police force, and not just the police force, within the education system, within the workplace, within society, that for some reason a minority of people are being prioritized where normal individuals such as myself, because I think a lot of people share my opinion, are then put to the side and treated like second-class citizens. We have two-tier policing, and I want to put a stop to that in the best way I can, which is just pushing back, even on a grassroots level, like attending a demonstration and putting my opinion forward. We have to, because if we stop, we're going to become George Orwell 1984 in 2025.
But you would accept that what you did standing there with that sign under the circumstances was pretty provocative. So why did you do this, Montgomery?
Well, I mean, as I say, it's not my problem if they react. You know, everyone has a responsibility to manage their reaction and their emotions. Going back to the beginning of this interview, I would say that categorizing it as a mental illness, well, a couple of years ago, factually speaking, clinically speaking, that was the term. So the fact that I'm just stating what used to be recognized universally, you know, that should just be accepted. That's not...
I'm with you, but you were trying to wind them up, weren't you?
I wasn't trying to wind them up.
The marches, you weren't with that sign.
If they get wound up, again, that's not my problem. I was not going there to wind them up. What I'm going there to do is be, essentially, I'm annoyed. I've been affronted, and not just me, a lot of other people. People have lost their jobs over making this claim. People have lost their relationships. People have been isolated within schools and colleges and universities. You know, we have a right also to be emotional and annoyed at the fact that this mob of individuals that claim there are multiple genders, which truly isn't the case, are suddenly a minority which are attacking the majority. And I didn't go there to wind them up as such, but I definitely went there to assert my point, assert my opinion, and also engage in rational, respectful debate. Now, I'd love to offer you some examples of that, but sadly, I was arrested before I had the opportunity to do so. But honestly, wind up, I wouldn't say so, but...
How did the crowd react to you? Did you get a lot of jeering?
Initially, I got, obviously, a lot of people taking photos, a lot of people pointing, a lot of people laughing. I can absorb all of that. As I said, I'd love to offer you some more kind of information on that, but I was arrested before anything really took place. But, you know, I didn't get positive interactions. Why would I? Obviously, I assumed I wouldn't. But someone out of principle has to take action and push back against the minority attacking the majority. And I'm just a normal guy. And a lot of people, I'm sure, listening to this would 100% agree, at least. There's not multiple genders. I don't even believe in gender. I believe there are two sexes, and it's as simple as that. And the court has ruled that. So why isn't that universally accepted?
I'm taking your points, Montgomery. My last question to you is: you said that you've now been banned from the city of Westminster or the area of Westminster.
Yeah.
Is that because there are more LGBTQ events coming up? Is that why you've been banned, or if not, why not? Well, why have you been banned?
I can't say for sure. I mean, it's a great question. I can't say for sure. I can assume so. I mean, a lot of my campaigning and a lot of my work revolves around Westminster, so I can imagine that potentially that was a motivation from the Met Police to sort of disrupt that. I mean, it's specifically for 3 months, and then after that, it may be extended unless I get it thrown out earlier through an application. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say no, but I can't for sure say yes. But it wouldn't shock me in the slightest if that was a motivation to try and disrupt and attack ultimately my freedom of speech and freedom of expression.
Yeah, I think that's the root of this. You know, it's freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Really good to talk to you, and keep us posted on developments.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. That's Montgomery Toms, a freedom campaigner, it says here. What do you make of that? I mean, you know, it doesn't, as Montgomery was pointing out, it doesn't really matter whether or not you agree with what his placard said, that, you know, transgender equals mental illness. It's not about whether or not you agree with him. It's about whether or not he has the right to make that public protest, if you like, or that public statement. And is it right that just because he's doing that in a situation where there are many thousands of people marching on Pride, people who won't like what he's doing, is it right that his freedom of speech is basically squashed? is deprived. He's deprived of that, you know, in fact arrested, just because it might offend the crowd. Is that right? 03444991000. We'll take your calls when we come back.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, in a little while we'll be talking about Angela Rayner's housing quango. It's called Homes England. They've chalked up nearly £250,000 worth of expenses. Hospitality, hotels, food, etc., etc. This is in Angela's drive to build many, many more houses. We could probably build a decent house out of that, if not more, couldn't we? Nearly £250,000 worth of expenses for Angela Rayner's housing quango. Good, isn't it? We'll talk about that next. But first, let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Peter in Croydon. Hi, Peter.
Hello, Kevin. Yeah, I would love to have been on the fly on the wall when the Chuckle Brothers got together, talking about the
Chuckle Brothers.
Yeah, talking about. I mean. Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, it probably only took about half an hour to come up with that little, piece of nugget.
Well, it's not, they haven't achieved anything. Nothing is written in stone. It's all a load of old nonsense, load of old waffle. What I'm bemused about, Peter, and I know we have state visits, but I mean, France is 21 miles away. What's Macron done to deserve this? I mean, all he's done is taken our money, 771 million quid's worth, and done nothing to stop the migrant crisis, nothing to stop the boats, nothing to stop the migrants, and here we are fating him, like sucking up to him as if he's our best friend. He hates us.
Exactly. I mean, what has he done for us? Nothing. What we've done for him is we saved their monarchy, didn't we?
I suppose. For a while.
For a while, exactly. Yeah, I mean, we saved their backsides from...
we certainly helped them out in the war, that's for damn sure.
Well, he'll be talking... If it wasn't for us and he'll be talking German by now, wouldn't he?
Probably, yeah. And, I mean, what do you think of the fact that we think the banquet may have cost as much as £300,000? It's grotesque, isn't it? It's grotesque, isn't it?
I agree with Isabel. It's obscene, isn't it?
It is obscene. And also...
They're taking a mickey.
I just don't get it. I mean, as I say, France is 21 miles away. They fly over here on a big jet and land at Northolt. All this pomp and ceremony costing a fortune. It's going to cost about 5 million quid this trip. 3 days. Three days of pointlessness, of expensive pointlessness.
Exactly. What I would do, Kevin, is pop over to Calais, get a couple of knives on the ferry. Go to the beaches and wait for the early morning rush hour and slash the dinghies. I'll do that for £1 million, easy.
Yeah, but they don't want to do it because they want to wave goodbye to the migrants and let us deal with them. That's the French way, which is another reason why we shouldn't be treating this guy like he's an honoured guest. I mean, I really don't get it. I think it's just a bit strange and slightly grotesque, the amount of money being spent feting this little pipsqueak president of France who hates our guts. It's crazy, and they're not coming up with any kind of a solution on the migrant crisis. That is for the birds. Peter, good to talk to you. Thanks for the call. Good chat, that. Let me read a couple of messages out. Oh yeah, I got some good ones up here. This is from Claire, talking about Montgomery Toms, the trans protester. She says, the Glasgow Women's Library gave me a warning for sticking up for women. Tell Alex Phillips, she would be furious. I've had to be careful because of my work. It's a disgrace. Well done, Montgomery. Harry says, it would be interesting to know what would have happened to Montgomery had he dressed as a Muslim with a Quran in his hands. Well, that's an interesting... I just don't know. Jacqueline, a lot of support for Montgomery here, Montgomery Toms. Montgomery was so right to stand up and push back on this ludicrous ideology. Please get behind him. This is from Jack. Got a lot of support for Montgomery. As I say, I stayed studiously on the fence on that one. You know, it's actually not about what Montgomery thinks. It's not about his opinion that trans people are suffering from a mental illness. That's his opinion. The issue is, does he have the right to express that opinion? You might not like it. It's not the point. He should be able to express it, shouldn't he? And I'm not sure I feel that comfortable with the idea that the police can go around and say, well, your opinion today is not popular with this big crowd here, and therefore we remove from you your right to freedom of speech. You're under arrest. You're going into a cell for 9 hours. In other words, this whole idea about causing offence. Now, causing offence is not an offence, and yet it seems that that was why Montgomery Toms was arrested, because he was causing offence. I don't think that is right. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. Here's another one. So Mark has come up with we were talking about mass deportation. By the way, let me know what you think about that. Mass deportation, he says, I've got a better word for it. Remigration. That's interesting, because a word that they don't like. I get lost in all these definitions, but a word that politicians really don't like is repatriation. Maybe it's offensive. I don't know. What's wrong with it? But repatriation they don't like. In fact, they don't like mass deportation. They think it's offensive. So let me know what you think. As Isabel and I discussed, we've turned the whole concept of deporting people who are here illegally into a taboo subject. Oh, it's racist. Well, if they're here illegally, unlawfully, they broke into our country, is it so shocking a concept that we think about getting them out of our country? If you're not here legally, you have no right to be here. So why do we just say, we can't get rid of them now, they can stay here? It's nonsense, isn't it? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we'll talk about Angie's Quango, the Homes England organisation that seems to spend a lot of money on themselves. That next, stay tuned.
we have to look at these reforms in the whole, in the round. So clearly they're designed to process people more quickly, but perhaps more significantly to put more people into the community. And of course our probation service isn't being dealt with. It's not getting more funds, yet they are going to have to deal with more people. And of course in prison we're still not doing rehabilitation. It's a golden opportunity to teach people a trade, whether it's plumbing, woodwork, whatever it happens to be.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. News on the Elon Musk front. Linda Laccarino, who's the chief executive of X, formerly known as Twitter, has quit the company after 2 years. So she's just gone off into the ether. And just it seems to be like Planet Musk is falling apart at the seams. So if we get any more news on that, we'll keep you posted. Now, let's talk about Angela Rayner. She's got this Quango, this housing Quango, quasi-autonomous non-government organisation. These are the organisations that Tony Blair was so keen on. They're kind of a way of governing the country without being democratically accountable. Kind of technocrat government, as it were. Now, this organisation we're talking about is called Homes England. It's been around, in fairness, since 2018, so way before this Labour government. But since 2021, this organisation, or the people who work on it, have chalked up nearly £250,000 on expenses on travel, hospitality, food, accommodation and office supplies. Now, this is an important organisation because in her spending review, Rachel from Accounts allocated £39 billion for Angela Rayner's affordable housing project. Homes England will be responsible for distributing 70% of this huge amount of taxpayers' money. Now, however, as I say, they seem to be spending quite a lot of money on themselves. Let's talk to, from the Taxpayers Alliance, William Yarwood. Hi, William.
Good evening, Kev. Thanks for having me on the show.
Always a pleasure. Now, this is down to your organisation, Taxpayers Alliance. Due to a Freedom of Information request, you have uncovered the fact that this organisation, the executives who work for it, the people who work for it, have chalked up £240,000 or more than £240,000 in expenses on hospitality, travel, food, accommodation and office supplies. I mean, this is typical, isn't it? It's just an obscene use of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think being part of a Quango, being a Quango crack, these guys think they have like a license to print money, essentially, and just use it on themselves. But yeah, it's completely and utterly atrocious. And I mean, they justified it by saying these were necessary travel and necessary employer expenses. But, last time I looked, when it comes to, buying food and things like that, £70,000 spent over the last few years on food. I mean, come on, what are they buying? They're not exactly buying meal deals, are they? They're not exactly taking.
If only.
Yeah, if only. Yeah, it might save the taxpayer a few quid. But yeah, look, this is a housing Quango that's supposedly supposed to, build houses. But as you know, Kev, we're not exactly amazing at building houses in this country. So this Quango that was set up in 2018 is clearly just not very good at their job, because maybe a lot of their people are, too busy swanning around the country pretending to be important, going to nice dinners and going on nice first-class accommodation in hotels and on trains. So yeah, they need to rein it in. And I don't care what Homes England says about, oh, this is necessary expenses. No, this is taxpayers' money we're talking about, folks. It's not yours. You should use it with a little bit more care.
Well, hospitality, which is one of the categories here that they've been spending our money on, it's taxpayers' money in the end. Hospitality is like buying people drinks and dinner, isn't it? So this is entertaining people.
Yeah, entertaining who? I really don't know. You know, entertaining building, construction workers. Construction workers. Is it entertaining? It's probably just entertaining other Quangocrats and so-called stakeholders, isn't it, Kev? Let's be frank. Let's be frank. So yeah, this is just another runaway Quango, we've called her, who doesn't really care about taxpayers' cash. And the thing about all these types of Quangos, Kev, is they think they can get away with it. But unfortunately, we at the TPA aren't letting them get away with it by endlessly sending them FOIs and bugging and having to make them explain why they're spending this kind of money.
When you sent in the FOI here, the Freedom of Information request, I mean, did they immediately come back? What was the request? How much expenses have you got ploughed through or something? I mean, what was their response? Because usually they prevaricate, they do their level best not to provide you with the information that you want.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't send the FOI personally. It was our investigations campaign manager, Joanna, so she'll have more details on that specific issue. But the FOIs tend to take about a month to get back. I mean, I've sent some FOIs myself, which take like 3 months to get back to me, and sometimes they just give me a section and say, "Oh, sorry, this is not for public knowledge because it affects vital ministerial work and things like that." When all I'm asking is how much a civil servant's spending on this, how much your MP's spending on that, and so on and so forth. But the worst thing about Homes England is they raise a lot of their money through fees and levies. So what they're doing is they're charging construction companies to essentially give them a fee in order to get house building done. All the while, these building construction companies are paying business rates. So actually, Homes England is actually raking it in left, right, and centre, and also getting direct money from taxpayers. So yeah, it's a bit of a racket, but they're clearly spending it very well on themselves.
Also, though, they're in command now of a massive amount of money because, as I said in my intro to this piece, that in her spending review, it's a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Rachel from Accounts, Rachel Reeves, allocated £39 billion for affordable housing. This, of course, is Angela Rayner's. She's the Housing Secretary, also the Deputy Prime Minister, of course. This is her big project to build thousands and thousands and thousands of new homes. Yep. So £39 billion allocated for affordable housing. Homes England will be responsible for distributing 70% of this huge amount of taxpayers' money. I mean, so they're commanding one hell of a lot of money. What exactly do Homes England do? Do they actually build houses, or what do they do?
So essentially, they just fund it and regulate a lot of it. As I mentioned earlier, they charge fees and levies to construction companies, basically allowing them to, I think there's a safety levy to make sure that the houses they're building are, safe and secure and stable, basically. And they've raked in, get this, £1.1 billion of fees and levies over the last year or so from construction companies, which is only driving the cost of house building and the construction of these houses up. I mean, the £39 billion that you mentioned there, Kev, I wouldn't be surprised if in a year's time it's an extra £39 billion because of the costs of it. I mean, you know how these things go. Yeah, nothing's ever as cheap as it first comes along. I mean, look at HS2 for crying out loud. Look, Homes England is just another one of these quangos which is outside the government's reach, really, outside of democratic accountability, and yet they're given this so much responsibility over something that was desperately needed in this country, such as house building. It was only set up in 2018. Did houses not get built before 2018 or something? I think they did. And also, if you see the decline in house building over the last few years, I don't think Homes England is doing an absolutely great job. And also, with their flippancy towards taxpayers' cash, I actually think it's time for them to be reined in a bit, don't you?
Yeah, well, of course I do. But I mean, why do we need this quango? If you're going to spend £39 billion on affordable housing, why can't that be handled by the Housing Department, the Ministry of Housing? Why do they have to subcontract to this quango? Why do they have to do this?
Sure, because I think the issue, and this is more broadly with quangos, is politicians are addicted to siphoning away power because in reality, Kev, these politicians don't really want any responsibility and they don't want to take responsibility for when things go wrong. So if housing targets aren't met, Kev, Angela Rayner can stand up and go, oh, well, that's not me, folks. You know, that's Holmes England, that's the Quango crowds and so on and so forth, and actually just abdicate the responsibility there to a bunch of faceless civil servants who are never going to appear on the media, who are never going to appear in, you know, in articles in the newspapers and so on and so forth. So they just do that kind of stuff. But that's the same with a variety of other Quangos, the OBR, the Migration Advisory Committee. You know, they all just blame these Quangos for the, you know, the problems that are caused. But actually, politicians, guys, actually set up these Quangos in the first place and then use your money, which could be going towards roads, going towards the National Healthcare Service and a variety of other things. They're using it to fund Quangocrats' salaries, bonuses, and, you know, as in Homer's England case, you know, the ability to swan around the country, you know, having hospitality expenses.
Hospitality, yeah. I mean, I assume that the system is this. If the Quango's work is successful, the government will go, isn't it great? Look, with brilliant Quango, we hired them and they're doing a great job. If it's not, they go, well, we gave them the job and they're doing a bad job. It's not our fault. It's a sort of buffer zone between the government and responsibility, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah, totally. And that's just the way our politicians work. Yeah. You know, they don't want any real power. They just want to live-action role play as local councillors rather than doing actually any real work.
It's nice that non-work if you can get it. William, great to talk to you. William Yarwood from the Taxpayers Alliance there. When we come back, basically going to take your calls for an hour. So the floor is yours. 03444991000. Call me.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, the floor is yours for the whole hour. We're going to take calls, 03444991000. You can send me a message as well if you like, if you're feeling shy, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note. That's on the same number, 03444991000. Before we go to the phones, I don't know if you've been following the Gregg Wallace story, but I think it's interesting on a number of levels. The BBC have now fired him. If you remember, he's the MasterChef star, you know, the guy who goes 2 minutes. He used to earn a lot of money for shouting, bellowing units of time, and that seemed to be his only job. You got 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and then he sort of shovel food into his gob and say, that is lovely, that is lovely. Anyway, he got a lot of money for not doing very much. But anyway, he was suspended last November amid allegations that he behaved inappropriately around women. He denies those charges. He's now been officially sacked by the BBC, and they say that they've unearthed, if you like, in their investigation, more than 50 new allegations against him. Now, Gregg Wallace again says this is a witch hunt. He says that he accepts that some of his language and behaviour might have been inappropriate, but he doesn't think it was a sacking offence, and he apologises for that, but he thinks he's the victim of a kind of a witch hunt. And he also says that he's got autism and he's had mental health issues, and the BBC never took that on board. So that's his excuse: autism and mental health issues. Some people might say, well, that wouldn't necessarily mean that you take your clothes off and run around with not much on, or grope women, which is what he's accused of. He denies this, of course, and he's coming out fighting. He says he's not going to go quietly. He's hired a lawyer. He's going to take the BBC to a tribunal. Now, you know, let me know what you think about this. I mean, you've read all the stories, you've heard about this. Is it justified? This thing, look, you know, I know a little bit about the TV industry. I've heard stories about Gregg Wallace, and it may be that perhaps, you know, some of his fate, you know, is kind of deserved. But this is what's uncomfortable for me. It's always the working class people who get dropped by the BBC, isn't it? Jim Davidson, Jermaine Janus, and now Gregg Wallace. So this is this sort of upper middle class organisation populated by Oxbridge graduates and public school people, you know, who basically they go through these phases where they have these pet cockneys and pet working. Oh, well, lovely, well, yeah, that'll appeal to the masses. This lovely little cockney man, very, very popular, you know, with working class people. Have you ever met a working class person? No, I haven't, but I'd quite like to, actually, in a way. That's the BBC for you. So it seems to be the working class stars that the BBC create that seem to take a perler, you know, seem to end up in trouble. I wonder what you think about this, and I also wonder what you think about the fact some might say that in his trouble, in his difficulties, Gregg Wallace is playing the mental health card, is playing the autism card. Oh, yeah, mental health, you know. Perhaps you think that. Perhaps you think he's coming up with that excuse. Let me know what you think, if you've got any thoughts about Gregg Wallace. Does he deserve to be sacked? Is he really getting his marching orders because, OK, he didn't behave very well, but worse than that, the worst crime in the world at the BBC, he's working class. Didn't go to Oxford, didn't go to Eton. Oh, can't have that. Get rid of him. Let me know what you think. 0344499 1000. Before we go to the phones, let's got a little WhatsApp voice notes. This is Trevor on One In, One Out.
Kevin, I've just had a thought regarding this brilliant one in, one out idea that Starmer wants to work with. When we get one in, can we get rid of a Labour MP instead? See if that works. Then when we've got rid of all 400 plus of them, then we can start on the kicking the other migrants out. Just a thought.
Well, maybe we're going to have, like, 1 in 400 out, you know, or however many Labour MPs there are at the moment. But, yeah, that's an interesting thought, Trev. Well, let's see if we can get that one going. Just start swapping migrants for Labour MPs. Yeah, I like that idea. Let's go to Kevin in Leicestershire. Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Kev. How you doing tonight?
I'm all right. You want to talk about 1 in, 1 out as well, yeah?
Yeah, well, I think that is just to appease people who sit on the centre right. Keir Starmer does not want to stop the immigration. You know it and I know it. And the thing is, your idea, which I think actually is brilliant, what you said to Isabel, and you've said it a couple of times, your idea of, all right, well, you can come here, but you're going to represent yourself and pay for your legal fees.
Pay for your own legal costs, no legal aid. I mean, it is madness that we give them that, but, you know.
But the thing is, though, What do you think Keir would think of that and his friends in the lawyers' firms?
Oh, well, they'd hate it. They'd absolutely hate it.
Exactly. So that's why your idea is a no-go.
Of course. I mean, look, Kev, any idea that is, shall we say, dramatic and full of resolve, this government's going to resist. So, I mean, the most basic thing that a lot of people would argue that we should do, and I've got a lot of time for it, is turn the boats round. Don't let them get here. Now, once you have a government, well, we've had successive governments, who just won't even think about that, won't even entertain it as a concept, then you know they don't really want to stop the migrant crisis.
Exactly. And I mean, if we were invaded by, let's say we went to war with France, and rather than giving them 771 billion, I think
let's go to war with them if they don't give us the money back. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, in a serious note, if their soldiers came across the English Channel, we'd detain them as prisoners of war. And this is it. Nigel said this. Sarah said this. All the reformers saying. I genuinely, we could talk about, the doctors moaning about the pay rise and the other guy who's just been on protests and whatever, the BBC. This is so serious. This, in my opinion, is a serious emergency. Like, these some dangerous people coming across now. We don't know where they're from. We should be treating them like we're at war. Detain them, but they don't want to do it. Now, just before I go, because I know you got a load of...
No, you take so. Go on. Yeah, go on.
You think of this, though, right? So, last year, 40,359 came in, okay? That's, if they're costing us 40,000 each, that's 1.6 billion they cost, right? Now, one more year of that, let's say the same come in, that's another 1.6 billion, but you've also got the first years. So you're talking 4.8 billion. At the same time, 16.1 million people are registered disabled. That's 23% of the UK aren't working. How are we going to afford this? At the end of the day, I've said it before, I think he's trying to bankrupt us and make us go back to the EU. But we could stop it if we wanted. He chooses not to.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, in terms of the money that's involved, just so as you know, I mean, last week, 2,599 migrants across the Channel illegally. That's basically 2,600.
That's 103.
They'll cost us £140 million over the next year. That's just last week's contingent over the next year. They cost us £40,000 a year each. So the figures, the sums involved are astronomical. This is costing us 11, 12, 15 billion pounds a year. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace.
Like I say, it's the money side of it, but it's not only that. It's the danger side of it.
Well, yeah, that we don't know anything about these young men, mostly young men, that we're letting into the country, and that is becoming a rising problem. It's getting worse and worse and worse. There are fears that too many, more and more of these young male migrants that we let into the country, no questions asked, are beginning to commit crimes, some of them serious, and even worse, some of them sexual. So there is a serious fear that we have let it in tens and tens of thousands of young men, and we don't know anything about them. That's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's turned this country into an unsafe place for women. Kevin, good call. Thank you very much for ringing. Kevin in Leicestershire. Let's go to Austria. How glamorous. This is Mark, new caller from Vienna. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Kevin.
How you doing?
Fine. You too?
I'm okay. How are things in Vienna?
Yeah, I'm just watching from Vienna, and I just heard. I sent you that message with remigration.
Yes.
Because you're not allowed to say that over here. Because then you totally...
remigration. That was your idea. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that was my idea. And the thing is, why... Because King Charles had the chance to lock up Macron for theft. Because he sold the 750 million. Yeah. What you sent to him over to take care of the migrants, but he didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, he was too busy making a speech about irregular migration as opposed to illegal.
That's ridiculous,
Yeah, well, you see, I'll tell you what, Mark, you see, when the King, and indeed this government, Macron's the same, and Starmer's said it today, so they bombarded us for the last couple of days of this state visit with that term, irregular migration. That is Orwellian. That is language control. Get everyone to call it irregular migration because that sounds a whole lot better than what it actually is, which is illegal migration. They're trying to control our language and we have to kick back against it, and the King should never have taken part in that process, if you ask me.
And the other thing is the legal aid, what you're providing for these illegal migrants, we have that here in Austria as well.
Oh, you do? So I was wrong about that. I was told that we might be the only country in the world that does that, but you provide legal aid to your illegal migrants as well, do you?
Yeah, we do, because we're so stupid. We're listening to these stupid NGOs.
Yeah, well, welcome to the loony bin. Welcome to Britain's loony bin.
And one big question is, why does Great Britain still listen to the ECHR? Why? You're out of the European Union.
Well, because we're a member of it, that's why.
Yeah, just get rid of it.
Yeah, well, I think we should quit, but we don't. So we have to listen because we're a member of it. It's as simple as that. Listen, Mark, I take your very good points, and thank you very much. Remigration, I like that a lot. Thank you very much for calling. That's Mark in Vienna. Shall we play another WhatsApp voice note? We've got one on Gregg Wallace from Darrell.
Not a week seems to go by without some scandal in the BBC and somebody either loses a job or should be losing the job. It's every week. I think it's the same problem with the BBC is the problem with the government. It's an institution like Whitehall backroom boys making all the decisions behind closed doors.
Yeah, that just sort of ended, didn't it? Good point, though, Darrell. Actually, he's made a very good point there, and I kind of didn't take this on board, and I should have done, because only at the beginning of this week, or since the Glastonbury debacle, the horror at Glastonbury, you know, Bob Villan and death to the IDF, you know, their anti-Semitic chants. Nobody's been fired for that. Nobody's been fired at the BBC for the Hugh Edwards mess. Nobody ever gets fired at the BBC for anything, except for working class presenters, as in Gregg Wallace, Jim Davidson, Jermaine Janus, and so on and so forth. But all these middle class backroom boys and girls, they never get fired. The head of music, Lorna Clark at the BBC, £215,000 a year, was asked to step back, and so apparently were a small number, we're told, of senior executives, all asked to step back after the horror at Glastonbury, that they broadcast these anti-Semites for 40 minutes live, and then for a while you could still get them on the iPlayer. They took it down from the iPlayer, but huge mistakes were made. Tim Davey, the Director General, he's not fired. Lisa Nandy wants to know why no one ever gets fired at the BBC. She's the Culture Secretary. I think she's got a very, very good point, doesn't she? Here's a text from CC. Apparently on Channel 4 News, they're saying that 400 Chagosians have fled Mauritius and landed in Heathrow. They've been taken to Hillingdon Council to have assessments to determine the housing and other benefits they may need. So this appears to be, told this is on Channel 4 News tonight, in the slipstream in the wake of us handing the Chagos Islands to China's best friend Mauritius. 400 Chagosians, we're told here, have fled Mauritius and landed in Heathrow. Funny enough, the Chagosian community here is in Crawley, which is very near Gatwick Airport. But yeah, that's an interesting story, isn't it? Anyway, let's go to break now, and when we come back, more of your calls, more of your texts, and all that. WhatsApp voice notes as well. 03444991000.
we have to look at these reforms in the whole, in the round. So clearly they're designed to process people more quickly, but perhaps more significantly to put more people into the community. And of course our probation service isn't being dealt with, it's not getting more funds, yet they are going to have to deal with more people. And of course in prison we're
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah, big story breaking the Sun. Harry Cole is revealing that former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry used to work here at Talk. We know him well. A former Tory party chairman, Sir Jake Berry, has defected to Reform. He says that Nigel Farage's party is, and I quote, the last chance to pull Britain back from decline. He blasts his old party, the Tories, the Conservatives, for, and I quote, abandoning the British people, and he also has a go at Labour for lacking direction and backbone. I think we'd all agree with that. But that is a big name defection, isn't it, folks? The former chairman of the Tory party. I think I'm pretty safe in saying probably the biggest defection so far from the Tories. Sir Jake Berry has quit the Tories. Former chairman of the Conservative Party has quit and is now a Reform member, has quit and joined Reform UK. That's big, folks. That is big. Let me know what you think. 03444991000. Do you expect more big defections? I suspect it might happen. Let me just quickly read, what do we got here? This is, yeah, I've got a good one here. Somebody, oh yeah, that's right. Ernie sent me in a text. We're talking about working class people getting fired from the BBC. Nobody gets fired from the BBC unless you're working class. He's talking about Wyn Evans, you know, the Welsh guy from Strictly Come Dancing. He got fired as well. For allegedly inappropriate behaviour around women. Do you see a picture emerging here? I don't know. Let's play another WhatsApp voice note. This is Gary on One In, One Out.
Hi, Kev. I know it's probably a facetious comment, but what's stopping them, the French, saying to us, well, look, I know we're going to do this one out thing, but how about we were going to send you 500 today, save all the rigmarole and the paperwork. Let's just send you 250 and we'll just call it one in, one out. What's stopping that? My goodness.
That's cool. What do you mean, sort of cut it off at source? So if there's one of these days where 900 are coming across, we kind of do a deal that 450 of them stay in France. So saves us sending them back. The thing is, though, Gary, this is never going to happen. The whole scheme's not going to happen. Even if they vaguely get it going, you know, it's going to be wrapped up in legal wrangling as we try to deport somebody or send somebody back to France. They'll have immigration lawyers which will sue the government. They'll have to remain, it'll go to court, and so on and so forth. You just know that's what's going to happen. And also, 5 countries are objecting to it in the EU, which will probably count quite a lot. That's Italy, Spain, Malta, Greece and Cyprus. They're all objecting officially. They've written to the European Commission. It's not going to get off the ground. It's not going to work anyway. As I keep saying, you know, the problem with the migrant crisis, essentially it's a numerical problem. This country is full. We can't take any more. So how does it help us if we start playing swap the foreigner with France? Here, you have one, we'll have one. It doesn't help. Numerically, it achieves nothing. It's ridiculous. I mean, Starmer says it's a kind of deterrent, but is it? He's not very good at deterrence. As I keep saying, hey, Keir, what happened to smash the gangs? I thought that was your deterrent. How many gangs have you smashed? Oh, I know. It's 0, isn't it? It's ridiculous. After a year, smash the gangs. That will be the deterrent. Smash the gangs. Yeah, right. Right. How ridiculous. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Jason in Sheffield. Hi, Jason.
Yeah, you're all right, Kev?
Yeah, I'm good. What would you like to say?
Right, I've got a couple of things to put to you.
Yeah.
Why is it that this Labour Party, whenever they're confronted with an issue, they put it out to a Quango, okay, and they put it out to consultation.
That's right.
They basically sublet all decisions to various...
Well, they do. I'll tell you what you're talking about here, Jason, and this isn't necessarily a Labour problem. This is a politician's problem. This is a Westminster problem. Westminster and politicians, ministries, departments, cabinet ministers, prime ministers, they move at a snail's pace. They move at a much slower pace than the rest of the world. You try it in the media. You put a call into a cabinet minister or a minister's office asking them something, and you get these sort of people, these flunkies going, oh, well, they get back to you on Wednesday. No, we want an answer in an hour. They are so slow at everything. It is the nature of politics, and it's a problem. I don't know why they can't be more efficient.
Can I just say one more thing, Kev?
Please do.
Hang up. Before you hang up the phone on me.
Okay, yeah. I would never do that, Jason. What do you want to say? Go on.
No, right. Do you know, if I was Larry the Cat, right?
Larry the Cat, yeah.
Yeah,
the Downing Street cat, yeah.
I'll be out of it in a shot because the Labour Party put that many dead cats on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll use Larry as a dead cat.
See ya. Yeah. I'm Larry.
Well, I'll tell you what I reckon.
I'm gone.
I'll tell you what I think that Larry might do. Sir Jake Barry, former Tory chairman, has just defected to Reform. Maybe Larry will defect to Reform because everybody seems to be doing it. Jason, good to talk, mate. Call me again. I know you will. Always a pleasure. Jason in Sheffield there. Here we go. What do we got? Thanks for your show, says Liz in Ireland, watching from Ireland. Thank you. Mark says he's in Camelford. Who is that? Is that in Cornwall? Am I right? Maybe. I'm not sure. Can we look that up? Let's try reverse psychology, says Mark, on Starmer, and keep saying how well he think he's doing. He's going to think, hang on a minute, hang on, I'm pleasing the right wing. Yeah, that's right. It's so people like me. Yeah, you know, this Keir Starmer is really coming around. I like him. That'll depress him even more than he's probably depressed now. Good idea. I like that idea, Mark. Let's start praising Starmer just to annoy him. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your messages, more of your WhatsApp voice notes. So much still to come. Stick around.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It's a good text from M. She's talking about, I'm assuming it's a she. She's talking about, she's in Bath, by the way, not the Bath, she's in the city of Bath. She's talking about Gregg Wallace. So she said, hi Kev, I completely agree regarding Gregg Wallace. I always quite liked the bloke and do feel like he's being used by the BBC as a bit of a Barrow Boy caricature and now thrown under the bus because it's not fashionable anymore. It's good, this, Em. You can hardly blame him using his autism status as an excuse. It seems even far more serious crimes these days appear to be excused by mental health. One could surely argue that any bad decision is governed by poor mental health. It's a complete joke. That is an interesting point. If you do anything bad, wrong, inappropriate, arguably you could say, well, that's because I'm suffering from mental health issues. A lot of people do this, play the mental health card. I'm not saying Gregg Wallace is playing it falsely. I'm not saying that he's playing the autism mental health card falsely, but he's certainly playing it. He's saying that never once did the BBC give any consideration to his mental health issues and his autism. So interesting times. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Paul in Hartlepool. Hello, Paul.
Hi, Kev.
All right, what would you like to say?
I was just wondering, when Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister, I was wondering if we can get a deal with Trump that we can send all of our immigrants to be processed to Guantanamo Bay.
You mean Guantanamo Bay? Guantanamo Bay, yeah? In Cuba, yeah?
Well, plus all the dangerous criminals. Well,
it's an interesting idea. Don't forget, Trump has also just set up a big prison for 3,000, he says, dangerous migrants, illegal migrants, in Florida, in the Everglades, and it's called Alligator Alcatraz. So he's got that as well. It's not, I mean, it depends. If Farage becomes Prime Minister, and by the way, it's looking more likely by the day. Big story today, Sir Jake Berry, former Tory party chairman, has quit today and joined Reform. If he does become Prime Minister, I wonder if you might pursue that policy. Australia have this. You turn up in Australia as an illegal migrant, they immediately ship you to this island off the coast, they process you, they automatically refuse your asylum application because you arrived illegally. They process you on this island and then they send you back to where you came, and they process people in 2 to 3 weeks. It'd be interesting to see if Farage pursues that policy. Either way, Reform have got some serious plans about what to do about the migrant crisis, and I'm not here to bang the drum for Reform UK, but they're the only party who have hardline plans to solve the migrant crisis, and they say they will solve it. The other parties just say, it's very complicated, we'll have to do negotiations and all that. So, yeah, interesting idea, Paul.
While I'm on there, I would like, do you know Prime Minister Question Time on a Wednesday?
Yep, I know that, yeah.
Like it to be changed to Prime Minister's avoiding question time.
You're so right. He is the worst. He is the...
I'd also like the Speaker to point out every question that hasn't been answered.
I couldn't agree. Honestly, Paul, I was moaning about this the other day. I think I might have been moaning on air about it, that it is Prime Minister's non-answering questions. And I think the Speaker should say, look, Prime Minister, or look, Minister, whoever's at the dispatch box, you've just been asked a question. You haven't answered it. You haven't even tried to answer it. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's really annoying. When Sarah Pochin, the... Reform UK MP, asked her maiden question the other week, which was, should we ban the burqa? Why don't we ban the burqa? The Prime Minister said, I'm not going to follow her down that line. That was his answer.
He should answer. question.
Yeah, exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more, Paul. It's a good point. It's called Prime Minister's Questions. He should answer questions properly. I think that's a job for the Speaker. Perhaps we can persuade Sir Lindsay Hoyle to get the Prime Minister and the Cabinet Ministers to answer questions properly. Good idea, Paul. Got to go, mate, but very good call. Thank you very much. Call me again. Should we play a WhatsApp voice note? This is the magnificently named Shifty, and he wants to talk about one in, one out.
Evening, Kev. How about when these migrants get here, I bring them in at Dover. As soon as there's enough to fill a ferry up, put them all straight back on it, send them straight back to Calais. Do that every day. It don't take a week and it stop. And I can't see why the French wouldn't even want to do this, because it's going to benefit them as well. Then they're not going to come to Calais no more. They're not going to come traipsing through France because they know they're coming into bloody El Dorado. It's just unbelievable. And these are meant to be the grown-ups in the room.
Well, Shifty, very good point. I agree with you. I mean, what you're talking about is sending a message. What you're talking about is that thing called a deterrent. So if the migrants who are fixing to cross the channel, all gathering on the north coast of France right now, I suspect, by the way, there could be quite an invasion coming up because it's going to be very calm weather for a few days to come. If they saw that their predecessors who crossed the channel were stuck straight back on a boat and returned to France, then they wouldn't try it. I mean, but some reason, we just won't go down any kind of deterrent line. We don't have any deterrents. We only have enticements. You're quite right, Shifty. Where are we at? Yeah, let's take another phone call, shall we? Shall we go to Charlie in Manchester? Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Kev. Great show as ever, mate. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thank you for that. What would you like to say?
I just think this one in, one out thing is basically deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah, moving the deck chairs around. I've used the same analogy myself.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, whenever Nigel Farage speaks about it, whether it's him or whether it's a member of his party, they get shouted down, they get heckled. The Speaker does absolutely jack all about it. And I'm wondering if this is actually a conspiracy by the Labour Party to screw the country in such a way that whether it's Nigel or anybody else gets in, the Labour Party can turn around and say, ha ha, we told you this wasn't going to work. But basically, they've actually destroyed it in such a way that nobody else can do anything.
Well, it's possible. I mean, but this one in, one out scheme is bizarre. It's bizarre, and now it seems like we're only going to send 2,600 migrants. Or the plan is that we're going to send 2,600 migrants back over the next year. Well, that's while about 50,000 crossed the channel. So where is the one in, one out in that?
Well, the thing is, I mean, the ones that come in, the ones that we do have to accept in, are supposedly then going to be legal because they've come from France.
Yeah.
So therefore, any that we do accept in technically are not illegal anymore. So how is that going to bring the numbers down? It's just that it's...
Well, you know what, Charlie, you're hitting the nail on the head. This is what I keep saying. The essence of the migrant problem, our crisis, is numerical. We can't keep accepting more and more people into the country. So, given that the bedrock of our crisis, of our problem, is numerical, in what way does it solve the problem if we start playing swap the foreigner with France? So here's one, we'll give you one and you give us one back. And you're right, for some reason, theirs are going to be legal and ours are illegal. I tell you, it's not going to happen, Charlie. It won't happen.
So what if the one we get that's legal happens to be a paedophile or a rapist or a terrorist or a murderer that the French haven't vetted properly? You know, not accusing them of doing anything wrong, but what happens if the one we get is worse than the 10,000 that we've had in the day before? I mean...
Well, they might argue. I mean, again, this is all very, very strange to me, but they would argue, the French would argue, or Starmer and Macron would argue, that what we're talking about here is when an illegal migrant turns up in Britain, that we send them back to France and we swap them for a legal migrant, a migrant in France who has a legal right to come here because they got relatives here, family or whatever. So we take from them a legal migrant and we give them an illegal migrant. Now, if you think about that, that is a legal minefield. You know, what happens when we send back an illegal migrant? What happens to them? What happens to them once they go back to France? And by the way, they'll get immigration lawyers here who will fight that case in court. It's just not going to happen. It's fantasy stuff. It's fantasy stuff.
I don't think it's even going to get that far. I think what they'll do is the ones that we send back to France will come back hanging onto the axle of a lorry the following day.
I think you could be right. I'll tell you another thing that's interesting is I wonder, so what is this? This is day 2 of Macron's baffling state visit here. You notice that there's no migrants come across the channel.
Ooh, yes.
I think suddenly they're patrolling the channel. They're going to make sure that they don't, while Macron is here, if we had suddenly 900 migrants turned up, that would be quite an embarrassment. So miraculously, all of a sudden, there are no boats coming across. What a coincidence, eh? Charlie, good point, good call. Thank you very much. Please call me again. Charlie in Manchester there. Should we play one more WhatsApp voice note before we go to break? This is Chloe, 1 in, 1 out.
Hi, Kev, and this migrant 1-for-1, I think we know very well what's going to happen here. The one coming in for France that's been approved will go straight into social housing and not into a hotel. And then they can send for their 17 family members. That's how it's going to work.
I think you're so right, Chloe. I mean, it's almost part of the deal. These are people who have allegedly, they're in France, but they're migrants, but they've got a reason to come to Britain because they got family here, a legal reason to come. But as you say, Chloe, the chances are they'll probably bring about 17 of their family members with them. It is baffling, this scheme, absolute rubbish. And it's not going to happen anyway. It really won't. Anyway, let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls. Stick around.
The whole scheme needs to be scrapped. I'm sorry, it is so rotten to the core that the whole thing needs to be completely dismantled, and we can perhaps start again with a scheme for a very, very, very small number of the most needy, because that's what a civilized society does. And I'm talking a tiny fraction of the current claimants. It is a complete and utter scandal, this.
We have
across the UK on DAB+. On your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Yeah, massive news. Some breaking this story as we speak. I mentioned it earlier. Former Tory chairman Sir Jake Berry has defected to Reform and says the party is, and I'm quoting, the last chance to pull Britain back from the decline. He blasts his old party, the Tories, the Conservative Party, for, and I quote, abandoning the British people. And he also has a go at Labour for lacking direction and backbone. Now, Jake, who used to work here, good guy. He, as I say, he's spoken to The Sun about this, and he's filmed a video with them. So here is Jake talking about his sensational departure from the Tory party, which will be a body blow to Kemi Badenoch. This is a serious big beast, quitting the sinking ship Conservative. If you ask me, it is sinking, it's in trouble, and joining Reform. Reform is has got the momentum. Kemi Badenoch will not be having a good night. Here's Jake Berry talking to The Sun.
Britain is broken. We literally live in a country where you cannot walk down the street with a phone in your hand. We have taxes that are so sky high, the brightest and best are leaving our country in droves, while at the same time a benefit system that is bringing the world's poor to our shores with no control. If you literally want to design a system to destroy a country, you would struggle to do better. And I know who broke it, because I was there. For 30 years I supported the Conservative Party. For 14 years I was one of their MPs, sitting at that cabinet table twice. And I want to tell you today, my friends, that I have come to a decision. The old parties do not have what it takes to transform our country, to build a Britain we can believe in again. And that's why I've decided to join the Reform Party. It is only Reform and Nigel Farage who can deliver a Britain that we are proud of again. Nigel Farage has always stuck by his principles, even when it was unpopular. He campaigned for Brexit. We know we can trust him. He doesn't change his views when the political weather changes. And because you know you can trust him, I can trust him too. And that's why I'm going to spend every day campaigning to ensure that Nigel Farage and Reform form the next government of this great United Kingdom.
Still a broadcaster, isn't he? That was pretty good, wasn't it? But seriously, this is massive. This is massive. You know, this is a former chairman of the Conservative Party just saying that the Tories have abandoned the British people. It's a story we're hearing more and more and more. Kemi Badenoch is doing her best, but it's nowhere near good enough. I don't think she's good enough for this job. I still, she's improving during Prime Minister's question time. Wasn't very good today, by the way. But she's no great shakes, and I just don't think she's got what it takes. The momentum is with Reform. Jake Berry, former chairman, has quit, and you just heard what he had to say. Still got a few minutes. You might want to give me a ring. What do you think about Jake quitting? 03444 99 1000. All right, let's go down to Folkestone, right there on the front line of the migrant crisis. Our friend Liam. Hi, Liam. No boat crossings for a few days. Do you think that might have something to do with Macron's state visit?
Oh, hello, Kev. Yeah, definitely. You know, today the channel was an absolute mill pond. I was expecting quite a few hundred, but I've got a few like apps and things how I keep track of what's going on in the channel. Yeah. And it was a hive of activity down on the French side. Usually you only have about 4 or 5 French vessels that escort them, you know, taxi them in mid-channel and then drop them off, and then we go out and pick them up with our taxi service. Right? Usually you only have 4 or 5. Today, 9. 9 of them are down there. We have got 5 search and rescue vessels under the French flag, 3 military and 1 patrol vessel have been going up and down from Dunkirk to Boulogne.
Is that right? So yeah. they're finally doing their job, because they don't want the embarrassment while Macron is over here preening himself and we're sucking up to him of 900 migrants coming across the channel or anything like that, right?
Exactly, it's the optics. It's only because he's here. It's their first state visit. I've been doing this for 5 years.
I know you have, yeah.
I've never seen as many French vessels down on the French coast.
That's hysterical. And don't forget also, Liam, like, was it last Thursday, wasn't it? Conveniently, a BBC film crew and reporter were on hand to watch the gendarmes finally in a place called, what's it called, Boulogne-sur-Mer. They finally we saw them puncturing a dinghy in the middle of the sea.
Did you also notice that the camera focused in on that one child? That's very rare.
I'll tell you what I noticed first, Liam, was apart from that one child, the boat was pretty much full of blokes, like they all are. They all are. Yeah. So these people, the French, and they think we're idiots. They think we're idiots and that we won't notice that suddenly the French are doing a great job. And it's only because Macron's here for a state visit. What's really annoying about this, Liam, is, you know, when you see what you're saying, and we saw what happened last Friday or Thursday with the stabbing of the boat and the patrols. So they could do this job. They could do it properly if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just an absolute joke. They don't have, you know. It was just amazing just seeing them all. They're all. There's a couple of them out right now. There's the Aber Eldu, which I've never seen before, and the Apollo Moon and the Nautic. These are three that I've never seen in the French coast before. So crazy.
Absolutely, but somehow not surprising. It's all a publicity stunt. When old Macron leaves, I think he leaves tomorrow. It's going to be a very hot, calm weekend. I think there may be something of an invasion. What do you reckon?
Exactly. Tomorrow, I've looked at the channel forecast. The wind is going to be less than 5 miles an hour. The waves are going to be less than 10 centimetres in a period over 7 seconds. Yeah. Tomorrow is boating weather. You know, it's boating season.
Jolly good migrant boating weather. The only thing is, Liam, that as far as I can work out, Macron will still be here, so they'll probably be making massive efforts, at least to keep the score sheet clean tomorrow. After that, going into the weekend, I bet it's going to be bad. Liam, it's always great to talk to you. Keep in touch. I know you will. Pleasure. Liam in Kent there. Folkestone, he's right on the front line and he monitors this all the time. You heard what he's saying. Mysteriously, suspiciously, I guess, all of a sudden, he's never seen as many patrol boats patrolling the channel to stop the migrants. That's because Macron's here, isn't it? Let's go back to WhatsApp voice notes. Here's Sandra on King Charles.
When Charles became king, I seem to remember that he intimated in his speech that he wouldn't comment on political issues or words to that effect. He has reneged on that. Now, I've always been pro-monarchy, as I never wanted to see a President Blair or President Johnson. But at 64 years old, I'm starting to think otherwise.
King Charles lost a lot of support by even using that ridiculous phrase, irregular migration. The word he was looking for was illegal migration. We mustn't go along with this ridiculous Orwellian euphemism that the government has come up with to make the migrant crisis seem nicer, to put it in a less harsh light. What can we call it that wouldn't make it look so bad? Because this illegal migration term, that's not very... let's call it irregular. So he's used that in that speech last night. Macron's used it about 4 times during his visit. So has Starmer. Don't fall for it, folks. Let's carry on calling it what it is. Illegal migration. Simple as that. Here's Ernie. Starmer has this is a message, has no intention of stopping the boats because it's his back door back into Europe. He thinks he can be the hero who saved Britain by doing a deal with Europe to take us back when we're bankrupt. He's so transparent. I don't know, but he certainly wants to get back into Europe in all but name. There's no doubt about that. Should we take another call? Let's talk to Gordon in Essex. Hi, Gordon.
Hello, Kevin.
Yeah.
It was just the phrase used by Keir Starmer and the King last night.
Yeah.
Keir Starmer used it again today, irregular.
I know.
Instead of
and Macron's used it about 3 times while he's been over as well. They are bombarding us with this term to try to get it into popular use because it makes the migrant crisis seem less of a crisis. But we mustn't fall for this. This is Orwellian. It's illegal migration. That's what it is. That's what we have to call it, right?
Exactly, yeah. And we must keep calling it illegal, and they are illegal, and there should be no benefits for them, no legal aid. I mean, I know you've been talking about that, but that is crazy.
I know, everything that we do for these people is crazy. It's like once he got rid of the Rwanda scheme without even seeing if it would work, he never even tried it. People go, oh, the Rwanda scheme didn't work. Well, it didn't start. That was the problem, because that idiot Starmer ripped it up on day one, thereby consigning £700 million worth of taxpayers' expenditure straight down the drain. So we don't have any deterrents. We just have enticements. We have encouragements. If you get across the channel, we'll put you in a nice hotel. We give you 50 quid a week, free food, free dentists, free doctors, and a free lawyer to fight your case to stay. It's bizarre. It's so insane, right?
It certainly is. I mean, we can't get back in the country without a passport.
That's true.
We spent over 10 years living in Spain, and we become residents. We're back in the UK now, but to become a resident, we had to prove that we were getting an income that would not allow us to...
Yeah, that's the Spanish way, isn't it? Are you self-sufficient? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Well, these people that come across the channel are the very opposite of self-sufficient. They are dependent on us, the British taxpayer. Each one of them costs us 40,000 quid a year. It's a disgrace, Gordon, it really is. Gordon, I've got to move on, but thank you for an excellent call. Here's one from Michelle, message this is. It's about Gregg Wallace. No, Gregg doesn't deserve to lose his job. This was a witch hunt. The BBC would have defended him if the allegations were from underage boys. I'm not sure about that, but it's interesting. Well, Gregg Wallace said it was a witch hunt, and he could be right. Quickly, here's a WhatsApp voice note. This is Pete, 1 in, 1 out.
When the new legalised illegal immigrants come over, will their family here be the ones that have already come over on a dinghy but are still illegal? And suddenly when the illegal immigrants that are now legal immigrants come over, because they're coming over now legally, would their illegal family that's already here illegally suddenly become legal?
I think I followed that, Pete. Yeah, anyway, the point is, as your message indicates, it's just a complete mess. The whole thing is a mess. Very quickly, let's talk to Mark in Lincolnshire. Hello, Mark.
Hi there, Kev, mate.
All right. Irregular migration. Do you like that phrase? I don't.
It's disgraceful.
It is, isn't it?
It's, it's the old classic, isn't it? The classic socialist communist thing. Don't believe your lying eyes. This is what we're now going to call this.
Yeah.
Anything to make it sound a bit prettier.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. It's a euphemism. It's an Orwellian euphemism.
Absolutely. So most of it, to be honest, let's be honest about it. Most of it's to justify to themselves when they're on the dinner table with their mates.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but it's interesting, Mark. It's interesting that the King, Starmer and Macron last two days have been bombarding us with irregular migration, and we've got to kick back against that and just call it what it is, which is illegal migration. Don't let them dictate what language we use. It's an old ploy, and we mustn't play along with it. Mark, I've got to go because the show's nearly over, but always good to talk to you, mate. Call me again. Mark in Lincolnshire. Petrie Hoskin is in the studio. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to be looking at the situation between President Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer, and seeing if they've got their big talks tomorrow on what they're going to do about the boats. Do we have much hope? You see, the issue is that Macron, if he stops them in France, he's got his own right-wing party that will make his life impossible. So politically, I don't think he can do it. And also the EU will balk because...
Well, they already have 5 nations.
Yeah,
Spain,
5
Italy,
nations saying,
Cyprus,
look,
Malta.